Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Oh, hot dog, look at you.
And nobody talked about what's really happening.
And let's have conversations about what truth is.
We've proved now that there was direct access to the Antrim County election management system because we show on November 5th, we can see it in the forensic images, that an anonymous user logged onto the EMS remotely with escalated privileges and made changes to the database when they were trying to retabulate the election. So that's one huge development. Because now we prove that the machines were remotely accessed, and more importantly, they were remotely accessed by an anonymous user who had elevated privileges in the system. That is pretty damning for the non-forensic reviewers out there, or people who do not want a forensic audit. And the other thing probably is equally explosive. Everyone's seen ballots before, like these ballots here. On the side of the ballot, there's these black boxes. There's 59 black boxes on the side of the ballot. We now see within the forensic images that in Antrim County, those blocks 15, 18, 28, 41, and 44 were all intentionally modified. The height and the width, the shape of those blocks were intentionally modified in order to generate errors. What does an error do? In this case, by modifying those specific blocks, they were able to cause rejections for Republican ballots. Meaning if you voted for Donald Trump and then put your ballot in the machine, your ballot was rejected at a rate of 20% more than Joe Biden ballots.
So I got so much that I want to talk to you about today. We're going to have Mark Cook on. But the video you just saw, there's lots of videos like this. And there's this purposeful gaslighting that is happening for the last 6 years. Friday, I had to go through a protective order hearing for Eric Coomer, his attorneys, all the different people involved in the case against me that has turned into nothing more than a vendetta that's sponsored by people like Dominion Voting Systems. They're all in on it together. And, you know, I did a video earlier and I talked about the things that we're going to walk through related to Eric Coomer. But I just want to take you back in time. They said it was the most secure election in U.S. history. They know it's not. They have been stealing elections all the way back to 2000. They've been stealing it for longer than that. But the purposeful creating a system that made it so difficult, more trap doors than you know what to do with, that made it so difficult to see the bottom, that just happened. That just happened. They've nearly perfected it. We saw it in 2020. We could see it very clearly. They had to bring in this grand thing called COVID. And they had to make it sellable too, which means millions of Americans had to die. They had to come up with a vaccine that killed even millions more. They had to go into VAERS and they had to change the outcome of the VAERS data. They had to delete a bunch of it. They had to have social media companies that were on board that had embedded CIA assets in every single one of them, from news outlets all the way down. And if you want to go back further, you go to 2012 and you could look at the Smith Modernization Act, and it basically was the transcript for how do they allow media to lie to the people and get away with it. And every time we turn around, we look at the same groupings. We go back to the war that we had in 2002. Weapons of mass destruction, turned out there weren't any. We talk about the different wars we'd have with different countries around the world. We talk about Susan Rice going into Sudan and saying, go up there to Darfur, they won't listen to me, so let's make it genocide and ethnic cleansing. only to find out years later that that was untrue, but not before the Comprehensive Peace Agreement, the East Darfurian Peace Agreement, the Darfurian Peace Agreement, the East Peace Agreement were all created in order to split a oil-rich country in half. The entire time by saying that the person that was running that country that had been there for decades, that he was a war criminal, President al-Bashir. We could talk about what they did in the power sharing agreement and splitting up countries like Kenya, or what they did in Ghana, or what they did in Rwanda, or what they did in the DRC, or going into Somalia. We could talk about the private wars in Serbia, because we forgot about that. Or what happened in Ukraine, where biolabs were everywhere and it became the devil's playground, where in 2014, the CIA had to admit, the CIA in 2014 had to admit that the Maidan coup, that they were there, interfering with the elections in Ukraine as well. See, we have blood on our hands. We have blood on our hands in our own country because those stolen elections led to millions of illegals coming across the border, getting access to entitlements, bringing across fentanyl, illegal drugs, you name it, it's there. And we forget about the running of guns into Mexico to cartels, only to have those guns be brought back in the United States and used to kill our own people. But the millions that came over here that raped our women and children, that committed heinous crimes, we had a debilitating judiciary that came out and said, no, we're going to let them go. Then we had the Democrats on leadership stand against the people that are Democrats in our society who frankly think that they have lost their mind. And so they needed a media that could lie over and over and over again with more blood on their hands. Many of you think that, hey, listen, we're not at war. We're at war. The war is at our doorsteps right now. And everywhere we turn, I've been screaming from the highest building, get rid of the machines, get rid of the mail-in ballots. You could solve the problem and bring down the temperature in this country by 800 degrees. But that's not the plan. The plan is to use the American people against the American people. It's to allow these radical wackos that they indoctrinated on YouTube or wherever inside of the educational environment, which used to be at the college level, turns out they just matriculated down into the early education system and said, now we're gonna put porn inside of elementary schools. See, everything that I'm saying to you is absolutely true. There's no falsities in anything that I'm saying. There wasn't falsities in anything I said about Eric Coomer. We're going to talk about that today. And I am so well versed in this that I can actually see the tidal wave. I can see it as clear as day. I know what the left is doing. When I walked into that room for that protection order, I spent 8 hours getting browbeat over the head with me saying these words. I want people to be tried for treason. When they're found guilty, I want them to hang, because that is the penalty for treason. And they said, oh, Joe wants blood. How can you watch your other fellow Americans? By the way, nobody asked them. All the criminals that got let out on the street by the people in positions of power and authority inside the judiciary that's rotted to the core while they throw the book at people like Tina Peters. Nobody asked them what you are. Are you a Democrat, a Republican, or an independent? No, they didn't do any of that. They just became victims, lost loved ones. And the entire time they were so, she was just unlucky. Yeah, I know he's illegal, but we have to have compassion for people in our community. We had churches that ran cover for these people that have let them run roughshod over every American in this country. We have become slaves in so many different ways that we don't even know how to plug the holes to the boat. And yet we know where it all originates from. We know that the stealing of elections is the fundamental way that they put garbage, stupid people in positions of power and authority. And then we have special interests and lobbyist groups and all these other just horrible people from outside the country that can funnel money in through Act Blue or Win Red or any number of smurfing environments that are out there, and they can steal the very essence of our community from the bottom as the mayor all the way up to the president of the United States. And they can do so by telling us that there's nothing to see here. And then they can take people like Joe Oltmann, this guy sitting in front of you right now, and they can say, oh, By the way, yeah, people are less interested in what you have to say today, Joe, than they were 5 years ago. And actually, the thirst is much greater. And then go to social media accounts and say, you need to get rid of them. And they can sit in a courtroom like they did on Friday, and they can lie with impunity, and they can create connections and say, we're in fear because Mr. Oltmann wants blood, while sitting on a stand and repeating the same rhetorical bullshit that they've been repeating for 6 years. Joe's fixated on this. There's something wrong with Joe. There's nothing wrong with me. There's everything wrong with these evil devils. And I have to look at a judge that's on the bench and go, you were just put up there. And the judiciary is so rotted to the core, and it is so funneled down and connected to the DOJ and the AUSA and the Colorado Supreme Court and the Court of Appeals that they cover themselves so clearly in committing the crimes. But they say to us that, you guys are the crazy ones. What you see is not real. But we can see it clearly. When we got to the bottom of the 3 reports in the Mesa County report with Tina Peters, I want to remind all of you that they did not charge Tina Peters with any of the information that she was able to uncover. Not one thing that she did they charge her for. No, they said that because she ran an independent investigation and she used someone from outside and had them use an ID, even though what she did was perfectly legal, the people she had it do influenced a public official, and she is subjected to 9.5 years in prison. Let me break it down for you. She didn't commit a crime. She got into the machine. She did everything she was supposed to, and they wouldn't even address the fraud that they found inside the machines. They wouldn't address the reports. And we would sit on this show and we would show how you could change the outcome of elections over and over and over again. We could show you over and over and over again that we could change the outcome of the elections right here using a mounted image that was the same image they used in Antrim, same one that they had in Mesa. We found databases that weren't even connected, that were used inside the municipal election in 2021 in Mesa County. But they said nothing to see here. It's all a case of time drift. And they refused to address 95% of the report. So then I came out and I said, listen, President Trump is now in office. He pardons Tina Peters. We get to the bottom we have all the information that gets sent up to ODNI. We have entire groups of people that are actively working on all of the system architecture across the country. There's been countless videos, other documentaries. Patrick Burt has spent almost all of his resources and fortune fighting against this. I've lost nearly everything. David Clements, Mark Cook, Ed Solomon, Ben Cotton. Man, the list is long. Draza Smith, Sean Smith, Ash Epp. I could go down a long list of people who have collectively come together and said, listen, all you have to do is look at this information, charge someone with it. John Polis's words defy himself, the CEO of Dominion, and in a smug way, he gets $787 million. The guy that's behind it, Pompeo, forced Fox News to settle $787 million. We had judges that stood on the side and put their fingers on the scale, like Eric Coomer v. Mike Lindell. Mike Lindell absolutely had a truth argument. The jury was supposed to find whether or not he committed any sort of defamation. Oh, that's right, that didn't happen. Did you know that? That didn't happen either. So you know that the Judge Wong decided to step in the middle of it and put her finger on that scale too and say, I find that pro se defamation has occurred. It's supposed to be judged by a jury. And then tells the jury, I've taken care of that for you. Now all I need you to do is figure out how much does Mike Lindell have to pay. Think about that. And no matter how much information was presented, and no matter how much the outcome was, the jury said it wasn't malicious, that what Joe said was truthful. Oh, and credible. And the words that Joe used were non-defamatory. And then you know what, they're like, but The Supreme Court ruling was that you have to find that it was malicious in order to have defamation. And yet the judge says, we have a verdict. Mike Lindell has to pay $2.3 million. See, the entire judiciary has been turned on its head procedurally because it has nothing to do with truth anymore. It has to do with how they can move things around on the deal, and they control all the keys to the kingdom. They hold the keys, they hold the cards. They spent 20 years perfecting a way to take away the absolute ethos, the spirit, the soul of our nation. It doesn't matter where you go because they had the tentacles that were in there. Department of Education, handled by a bunch of radicals, was able to push down that information. And many of you were parents told your kids, go to school, listen to your teachers. So they did. You just saw just a single thing by Matt DePerno, who, by the way, was subjected to Whitmer in Michigan to election crimes for being the lawyer, for representing his client, digging into the bottom of it, getting access to the imaging, looking into the systems, having Jeff Lindbergh, who, by the way, I didn't even mention him, one of the top people at Sandia Labs. Super smart. Who was able to prove that the system itself was absolutely fraudulent. You had the ASOG group. They knew that the systems that are in the United States that run elections are largely controlled by people who want to destroy everything about the inconvenience that we represent as Americans. And here's a skiff. Here's from the skiff on X, and I want to thank Skiff for getting in the middle of all of this. And by the way, there's so many times that I get censored on every platform. People are like, Joe, I tried to watch it, couldn't watch it on Rumble. You have Rumble that basically has had this entire, hey, do whatever you can to take away from Joe Oltmann. People call me every day, say I can't watch it. They won't let me watch it. When I do watch it, they unsubscribe me to the channel itself. So we know we're onto something. We know that I've been the epicenter, which is why they had to destroy my reputation, and they had to come after me with over 7,000 articles. And yet every single thing that I've said has been 100% unequivocally true. And they just found a guy that just wasn't afraid to speak up. Play cut 2.
State of Pennsylvania reports several dozen of its citizens, or residents rather, who voted in this year's election were born in the 19th century. According to the Pennsylvania Open Data Portal, state officials issued 58 mail-in ballots to people who were born in the year 1800. Another 2 voters were born in the 1850s, and 9 voters were born in the 1890s, and yet another 23 Pennsylvania voters were born in the year 1900. The data also shows another 1,375 ballots were issued to people born between 1900 and 1920.
I got tissue.
All of this suggests people as old as 220 years old voted this year in Pennsylvania.
Hurry. Sorry, I spilled something. You're going to get me something to clean this up. So how does it happen? You've got about 3 seconds before I lose something to 10 seconds. Sorry, guys. I just went ahead and messed this up. Sorry. Imagine exploding your drink. I did just that. Yeah. Thanks, Patrick. Sorry. Well, that was anticlimactic. But it's magic, because every time you turn around, it always benefits people like Biden or the radical left. Always. And we've caught them everywhere. Doesn't matter where you are. We keep catching them, and then they just smooth that edge, and thanks for being our quality control. Thank you for being the people that go through and figure out what's going on so that we can hide it better in the future. And check out this clip. Let's go ahead and play it.
Print it out.
Do we have a reason
explanation why those votes?
I don't think.
So there's no like concrete, just to get it on the record, there's no concrete explanation as to how those 2,700 votes were not counted by the machine in the first place?
We don't know. I mean, we can't. They're not in there anywhere. So we don't know why they didn't get scanned in there.
So have the Dominion tech guys that have been troubleshooting here all day been able to figure out why they weren't in there?
Ask them, but I don't know if they can speak on that. They're not allowed to comment.
They're not allowed to comment.
And you're not allowed to tell me.
Sorry.
It just.
But as of right now, you can also not confirm that it was a memory card or anything of that nature as well, right? Because that hasn't been confirmed, to my knowledge, by anyone here.
I don't think it was a memory card. I can almost. Do you?
I don't think it was a memory card.
So it was. We can rule out memory
Rule
card.
out a memory card that wasn't
Yeah, I
scanned.
mean, okay, it seems like it's human error.
It
but
seems like it, but what's the evidence that would indicate it would be a human error issue?
the ballots didn't transfer over like they should have, and that could have been dealing with how whatever programmer programmed them. But at this point, we really don't know, so that's why you're
Could it
getting-
also potentially be a software issue?
We're not going to speculate at this point.
But you just said it could potentially be a human error. That was
That's
speculation.
Correct. So that's why you're
So
asking
then it
all
could-
these types of different questions.
I'm
We
just
really
trying to
can't
get-
give you any, I know what
Okay,
you're trying to do,
yeah.
and we really don't have it pinpointed right now. Like
That's fine.
we want to be able to give you the exact answer on what happened.
Absolutely.
I'm not able to do that right
Okay.
now.
All right. Fair enough. Thank you for that.
So tell me, what happened? Oh, I'm here to tell you that they didn't give anybody an answer. They said it was human error. See, when in doubt, slaves, just tell you it's human error. It's the greatest grift in the book. You have a system that literally, by their own admissions, is complete shit. And yet we're sitting here having a conversation trying to figure out how do we get to the bottom of it? Well, you can't, because there's no transparency. And now we have Thune and the rest of them that won't pass the SAVE Act that say, hey, listen, at a minimum, let's get rid of mail-in ballots. Let's have people walk through the door and go vote in person. Let's just reset things and get to a place where people can have absolute authority locally in their communities over the outcome of elections and the people that make laws, whether it be at the state or the federal level. But they don't want you to have that. They don't want you to have access to anything that could give you the ability to see underneath the hood. And here's a story out of Michigan. Let's go ahead and play this.
In the afternoon of November 4th, I believe it was about 4:30 or 5 o'clock when the military ballots came in. And I was working with one particular table when I was witnessing the military ballots, and I found it highly unusual that every military ballot that was logged into the system had a birth date of January 1st, 1900.
You have 1 minute.
And nobody could tell me why the birth dates were 1900. When I went to challenge those votes, the supervisor at the table told me, and I quote, "We're not doing that." So I pressured her. I said, "I want this challenge. I want it noted in the laptop and in the poll book." And she said, "We're not doing that." And I said, "Well, I'm not leaving the table until it gets logged in one of them." So she wrote down in the poll book, "Karen Cordes is challenging this vote," and she said, because I told her, is challenging every subsequent ballot hereafter.
Same story over and over and over again. Doesn't matter where we go. 2022 was just as bad. 2024 was even worse. And we're heading into 2026. And we have, since 2024, not won any municipal elections. Even one that's been a stronghold for Republicans for over 50 years flipped in Pennsylvania right after an election that we had here. See, now they're moving in and they're just going to steal everything. Oh, no, hold on a second. It's the will of the people in Virginia that they would elect a CIA analyst to be the governor of Virginia. A relatively unknown individual just came in and swept in, and yeah, that became the person that we were going to absolutely have run Virginia. And then they came in and took away Second Amendment rights, took away First Amendment rights, changed the election system to make it even harder for us to have any transparency. That's what the people of Virginia wanted on both sides of the aisle. And I can't find it. And I want to keep in mind that everything that happened in Virginia did the same thing. Well, 49% to 51%. Oh, we lost. It's never favored the other way. And when it does, it's by 3, 4, 5 votes because it was too big to rig. And people from the Democrat side said, you know what, I'm tired of this insanity and going to the Republican side. And they just didn't print off enough ballots. But you can't get transparency. And here we have Smartmatic executive caught lying about secret Dominion voting system ties to George Soros. And remember, Dominion voting systems up in Canada shared the same floor as a George Soros Open Society NGO during the 2020 election. Play it.
A manufacturer of electronic voting systems connected to billionaire George Soros is caught lying about its ties to Dominion Voting Systems Corporation. A Sunday report verified that Soros-linked Smartmatic may be connected to the sale of election technology to Dominion, which is being used to count votes in at least 24 US states. In a tweet last week, Smartmatic claimed to have never sold technology to Smartmatic, also denied having any connection to the controversial company. In 2005, Smartmatic bought Sequoia, which is one of the largest electronic voting systems in the US. 2 years later, following a court ruling, Smartmatic divested from the company and sold it to Sequoia's US managers. In 2010, Dominion Voting Services bought Sequoia in the US. Despite its claims of having maintained no ties between the two firms, in 2015, a full 5 years after the Dominion purchase of Sequoia, Smartmatic chairman Mark Brown gave an interview in the Philippines and admitted to using licensed Dominion technology. At this point, Dominion owned Sequoia in the US, and Smartmatic may have held some financial interests in the US branch.
The fact is, yes, part of our technology is licensed from Dominion, but you tell me a large technology company which isn't using, in part, licenses from other companies, and we have a license for the international use of that particular piece of the technology that we employ.
Chairman Mark Brown sits on the board of George Soros' Open Society Foundation, which has a revenue of more than $300 million and has reportedly given away billions of dollars to left-wing organizations around the world. Brown has also served as vice chairman of Soros' investment funds. Meantime, Smartmatic has faced controversy in the past, with allegations of rigging the 2013 election in Venezuela on behalf of embattled socialist president Nicolás Maduro.
In Latin America, that there's been the greatest adoption.
So you have a little bit of truth in everything somebody says. We talk about Venezuela. We talk about Maduro is in custody right now. We have all the information. But the left is smug because they still think that the CIA operatives, the intelligence operatives around the country and around the world are still in control of the levers that control not just what happens in the United States, but what happens globally. Remember, these same people have pushed to make sure that Ukraine war continues. These same people in these same countries have pushed to make sure there was chaos in the Middle East. These same people have pushed to make sure that we have elections in the United States that are stolen, that nobody looks underneath the hood. And I'm talking about at the DOJ. You had Pam Bondi, who was on Fox News every week. Where is she now? You don't see anything about Pam Bondi. Why? Well, we all know the why. She did her job for 18 months, slowed down things to make sure that the first 30 days the President Trump came in and he was on fire, that they could slow it down enough not to hold people accountable getting to the midterm elections. The same thing that they did in the first Trump administration in 2017. And I want to keep in mind something that you should keep in mind, and that is that we had the House, the Senate, and we had the presidency in 2017 too, and those same people betrayed the people the same way then as well. We're going to be joined by Mark Cook. I had an incredible conversation. I've been talking about, what is going to happen next with people that are in Washington. I'm going to head to Washington and have conversations with people so we can get to the bottom of whether or not, is it Todd Blanche, who's going to become the AG? I know who my pick is. I know who I want in that position. It's not Todd Blanche. But who is going to be in the position to take us through the next 175 days? And I know that we keep saying that we want to stop the inevitable. The inevitable has to happen, in my opinion. We are going to have to do something drastic, pull the lever that says that open sedition against the American people is already in play. That we get rid of the machines, we get rid of the mail-in ballots, we implement what can only be described as martial law. Oh, Joe, you said it out loud. How do you stop a judiciary that's so rotted it is putting pedophiles and rapists and murderers back on the street, that are passing laws to do everything they can to hurt the people, not just in Colorado, but around the country? Where the people in positions of power and authority are more concerned about taking away the ability for you to hunt in Colorado than they are about making sure that we can take care of our own students and people in our own state. Where they finally want to pass a new law in places like Colorado and Idaho to say, yeah, we need more money for potholes, when the entire budget was built in order to take care and fund the roads already in the budget. But no, that money goes to NGOs and outside organizations that are then used to weaponize themselves against the very people that they say they represent. See, I know for a fact that the people of Colorado are not the radicals that are represented in the legislature. That most Democrats, independents, and Republicans all want the same thing. They want access to education and opportunities and food and the quality of life that this country should afford them, given the great blessings that we've had over the last 250 years. So with that, I want to bring Mark Cook in. Mark, welcome to the show.
Howdy. Okay. Sorry, I'm driving through the New Jersey Turnpike right now, so it should be all right.
Yeah, it doesn't look like you're in an RV either. You in a car?
I'm in my truck, towing the trailer.
Towing the trailer. Well, where are you headed? Where are you coming from and where are you headed?
I'm heading from Maryland, and I'm heading up to Camden County, New Jersey, for an event that starts in 1 hour and 15 minutes.
So you're going to get there on time?
Yeah. Hopefully.
Well,
maybe 1 or 2 minutes late.
I spent the last 30 minutes talking about our election systems. You probably heard some of what I had to say.
I heard all of it. Yeah.
I think one of the problems that I have, Mark, is that my mind collects things and puts them into mathematical order. And I'm like, okay, well, this happened and this happened, so this has to happen. And then when it happens, I'm like, this is how it's going to happen. And we've sat on this show for 5 years, 6 years, talking about the same things. And the radical left is still saying we need to shut Joe Oltmann up. We need to shut Mark Cook up. We need to shut up all the way down the line. And here we are.
Yep. And everything you said, I wish I could disagree with it, but that's kind of where we're at. This is what's going on. It is this bad, but it is also this simple to fix it. We just have to run our own elections. That's it. And when we run our own elections, all this goes away. We fix it all. And I'm kind of shocked that we still 6 years later have people thinking they got to ask permission. Last I checked, this is our country. And when the citizens finally decide to pull their head out of their rear ends and decide to actually act like it's their country, then they'll start running their own elections. So what I would suggest everyone does is start practicing for running your own elections, because you're going to have to run your own elections. That's the only way out of this.
Well, so that gets me down to the fact that President Trump's going to have to make some drastic decisions here very quickly, right? And we keep saying, okay, we have to wait till the election happens and we can find it afterwards. And Mark, I was having this conversation with a group of people earlier, and I was like, once the elections happen, it's too late. You have stored procedures, you have root kits, you have the ability to basically overcome it. The risk-limited audit can eliminate any fake or fraudulent ballots that are phantom ballots and or fraudulent ballots when you go to pull the ballots. The entire system could have a separate database. It could funnel all the way up into Seidel and funnel from Seidel over to Edison. There's so many trap doors in the system because they need to have trap doors in order to do it differently in each election across the country.
The whole thing's engineered from top to bottom, everywhere, not just the counting of the votes, voter registration, the campaign finance, everything. The whole thing is fully engineered and fully irredeemably compromised. That's it. If there's a way to fix it, believe me, we would have figured it out by now. There is no way to fix it. The whole thing's got to be thrown out. And President Trump is either going to take the action to save this great republic and give it another 250 years, or his inaction is going to force the citizens to have to do things that we shouldn't have to do.
I just got back from this may be considered, what you just said might be considered violent rhetoric, right? I just got back from
not violent. Counting ballots.
Well,
I don't think that's violent.
But what I'm saying is that I never called for violence either, and so far I've been accused of wanting to hang people, which I don't personally want to hang them. I want them to go through the process, and I want them, if they're found guilty of treason, I want them to hang, because it's not been a victimless crime. We've had lots of Americans that have lost their lives as a result of a fraudulent, rotted judiciary, a fraudulent, rotted legislative body, and a fraudulent, rotted election system that has put someone like Biden in positions of trust. And we don't even actually know, going how far back, how many other elections there were. Was Obama? What's that?
Of course, everyone. Look in your own county. Look in your own state. I mean, I share your state. We know what's going on in the state. The entire system is rotted. The criminals have infiltrated. They've metastasized through our entire nation. They're there. It's done. It's over. They've got control. So what we're doing now is we have to fight to take that control back. That's it. It's simple. And the easiest way to do it, the non-violent way to do it, is just run our own elections. We run our own elections. Everything self-corrects. It's that simple. And we shouldn't have to go just run our own elections, but I'm pretty sure we're going to have to just go do that, because I don't see action happening at this point. Now, if action at the top does happen to help us get there, that's great. I will be very happy to have that little icing on the cake. But what if it doesn't? What if it gets thwarted? Then what? What are we going to do as American citizens? Are we going to allow our nation to be fully wiped out because we were trusting the plan and hoping and praying someone else was coming to save us? Did our founders just sit there and hope and pray the problem would go away? Or did they take action and go do something to make the change necessary to achieve the liberties that they achieved and that they handed to us? Well, we're going to have to do that. And if American citizens don't step up to do it, then they are going to be responsible for allowing this great nation to fail. And every single person here is going to suffer, and some people will suffer greatly as a result of it.
Mark, everywhere I turn, there's this pressure on me. I have the pressure in the court. They took away my attorneys not once, but twice, 3 times. One was completely compromised, I think, by the other side, who allowed for them to do really bad things to me, never checked into the case. I was constantly pushing them. I had to replace them with my previous attorneys, going through this process. But the pressure is overwhelming when you look at just what they've done on social media to me, what they've done in the lawfare, what they've done against my family, the articles, and the fact that they've used the media in order to basically destroy my reputation and to take things from me what's never theirs, right? Why me? I mean, there's you, there's other people.
It's so many people. Look at Tina Peters. They've got her in a effing cage.
Okay, let's look at that.
A citizen of ours in a cage right now, and have had her there for nearly 2 years for daring to expose, daring to look, daring to ask questions, to expose the mechanics of their easiest system of control, which is our election systems. That should be a damn wake-up call for every single person in this nation. So people have to stop being cowards and start summoning their inner rebels that they were all born with as citizens of the United States of America. Be the rebel that our founders were and take back your damn nation.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute. What do you mean by that, Mark? I mean, I think that people are waiting to do something. People want to get involved. They want to do something, but they show up to hearings and they say, "You have 3 minutes to speak, slave." They show
what are you
up
going to do? Go up to a hearing and tell a criminal that, hey, you're breaking the law, Mr. Criminal. Could you maybe decide not to? Could you stop being a criminal? They don't give a crap. They are criminals. You don't negotiate with criminals. You ain't going to change their mind. We have to understand who our enemy is. Know your enemy. And people are still thinking they can just reason through it with the criminals. You can't. So fast forward all the way, project everything all the way out. Where is this logically going? The citizens are going to have to run their own elections. And right now, the citizens do not know how to do that. So my suggestion to everyone is start practicing. Figure out how you're going to do your voter rolls. Get your groups together, figure out where your precincts are going to be, start practicing hand counting ballots, practicing sharing results at the precinct level. You start going through all the motions, figure it out. Just elect who's going to be the mock clerk of the county, and you just become an expert in being a clerk. Because at some point, you're likely going to be needed to step up and take that position for real. So start practicing, set up a parallel system right now and start running your own local elections as practice.
Yeah, but I mean, that sounds good on paper, Mark. I'm sure that everyone's like, okay, great, we're all for it. Let's do that. But what does that really mean? What does that, because I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, people are sitting here listening going, okay, well, that doesn't, how do I do it? I run out there and get a bunch of pieces of paper and, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy. You go to accountable.org, a-count-able.org, download the sample ballot pack, download the tally sheets, start figuring it out and practicing. It turns out it's not hard to get a list of people together that are eligible to vote and then have them mark dots on paper, count the dots, add the dots up, and get the totals. So start going through the motions, public, because you're going to end up needing to do this.
So how do you get the people together? How do you get them to organize and get on the same page and actually work together? I mean, I'm on these chat rooms. They're too busy attacking each other to actually start, doing things that are. And look, this is why I said that the Republican Party needs to start becoming the party of the people, right? Mm-hmm. Get Democrats, independents, and Republicans so we can get on the same page with what the communities need, what the people need. And you guys can fight over the social issues over there for a minute. Right. Right now, we're going to stay committed to the things that are fiscally conservative, handing back money to the people, making sure that they have opportunities and trade schools and that they can read and write, all the basics, eliminating drugs and guns and all the things that they're putting inside of our communities. Right. I think we can all agree on that. But we got to get somewhere, Mark, somewhere where it's too big to rig, don't we?
Well, up until the election, yeah, we're going to do some stuff for the upcoming election. Absolutely. And I'm not going to go out with what we're going to do right now, and certainly not out in public. But there are some things we're going to do. As far as to answer your question on how do we get people to work together, if people can't work together, forget the people that can't work together. It's time to throw the trash away. Let them be crazy. That's fine. The people that can work together and that can see and have this vision and want to actually fix this, you guys get together and then let me know when you're ready. Because I don't have time for the crazies. I don't have time for the chaos. I don't have time for the drama. None of us do. I want nothing to do with it. And I'm happy to work with people that are smart and that are willing to put the work in to achieve the goal. We can achieve anything we want to in this nation if we put our heart and our minds to it. It can be done. We just have to have the right people step up to do it. Ignore the ones that can't. They're a lost cause. Sorry, they'll probably still resent us in the very end. They won't even know what we did, but they'll certainly probably take credit for it. I don't care at this point. I'd spill my drink right now if I could.
Yeah, I mean, look, I look at this and I mean, I don't know how to give people the tools to do something with those tools when everywhere we turn, those tools are cut off. lawfare is implemented, people are barely paying their bills, Mark. There's a lot of people out there that are suffering huge consequences. And we're more concerned about how we handle something in a foreign country than we do stopping the bullshit here in our own country. And it's taken too fucking long. Let's just call it what it is. It's taken too long.
Are you talking about the people up top? Yeah, I don't know what the hell they're doing. They're either they either have a plan and they're just trying to keep everyone distracted while they're implementing the plan. And if that's what they're doing, well done, good job. If they actually don't have a plan, like they've kind of demonstrated in the past years, then, you know, I'm not going to be overly shocked either. But I do know in the end, we are going to have to do what we're going to have to do based on the tools our founders gave us.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Let's talk about this Smurf Award deal you had with Victor Marx. You want to tell us a little bit about this? Let's go ahead and put it up. The Victor Marx Smurf Awards top 3 winners are first place, Kenneth French; second place, Chuck Netterwerder; third place, Kenneth French. He got it twice. Where do the Victor Marx top 500 Smurf contributions come from? Here's the contributions of the top 500 Smurfs over time, also with a sliding window. Yet another example of how rigged the system is to create fake candidates to the manufacturer support for them to make it look viable. This is done for a couple reasons: to wipe out the real candidates, to rig the election for the fake candidates while creating an illusion that they won legitimately. It's so critical that we all do our part in waking up our fellow citizens that they can see the entire scam that has perverted our elections in every way. My voice is suppressed like crazy, so I need you all to share my posts everywhere, all over X and over other platforms. We have to fight the censorship so we can open everyone's eyes. And we have to vote in person on election day, on paper, and monitor every aspect of our elections. If we don't show up, we lose. If we show up in droves and vote for real candidates, we will beat these con artists. And no, I'm not paid by anyone. I'm doing this with what I have left in my savings because we must save our republic for our kids, grandkids, and all future generations. To all the idiots that are attacking me, pull your heads out of your asses and pay attention so you can actually learn what I am trying to show you. To all the operatives that are attacking me, thanks for highlighting who you are. People are noticing. You didn't even put me in there. That's nice. I know I missed a lot, so everyone please tag who needs to see this.
I did actually put you in there, but then I backspaced because I didn't want to necessarily hang you out there with what you're working on with GOP and whatnot.
Yeah,
so
I know.
You saw it, you got it.
I did see it because I follow you, and I watch all your content. But this is you basically pointed out, and I want to, if we can grab one of the videos on the right, this will explain what Mark is actually talking about. The first one I think is like 27 or 28 seconds. If we can grab that video and play it, do we have it? All right, Mark, why don't you explain to me what we're gonna see going through those two things?
Okay, so basically what I did is I've been working pretty hard over the past days here because Victor Marx wasn't contacting me, so I got real bored because I was waiting on his call that never came in. And so I started looking at his money that was coming into him and where it was coming from. And I happened to stumble across the fact that a whole lot was coming from out of state. And when I was trying to then visualize, I wrote some software to help visualize where the money was coming from, but my software was not working. It kept failing on a bunch of the entries. It was saying that the addresses weren't right. And I couldn't figure out what the heck I was doing wrong. So I started debugging the software and I realized the addresses were fake addresses, and that's why my software couldn't find a matching latitude and longitude. So actually, my software was working perfectly. It was the data that was bad. So then I went ahead and I tried to readjust the latitude and longitude based solely on the city and state, even though it didn't have a matching street address because they were all mismatched in the data, and I did a visualization. After I did that, this was a couple weeks ago, no one, of course, from the Victor Marx campaign contacted me. And then after several days of continuing to push this, I guess they made some statement out there that the data was wrong that they had uploaded to the Secretary of State site. So all their campaign finance data for the entire year of 2026 apparently was wrong. And they asked the Secretary of State, our favorite, Jenna Griswold, if would be kind enough just to delete their entire uploaded data set and allow them to replace the whole data set with a whole new data set. And our nice little Secretary of State obliged and allowed them to do this, apparently with no penalty, and went ahead and wiped the whole data set out. They re-uploaded a whole new data set, and now everything is shifted, and in a very strange way. So last night I put out a video. It's not this one here, but it's a different one from last night. Follow me, Patriot Mark Cook on X, and you can see that. And you'll see I put out a video that I showed several of the entries from the before and the after databases to show the differences that they made. Kind of like the before and after images that Tina Peters took, right, to see what they really did. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to really did by looking at the before and after images of these campaign finance contribution databases. And I found out that the Smurfs that I had originally found in there were still there. And what a Smurf is an entity that is used to funnel money. And what they do is when they want to funnel a whole bunch of money to candidates, they can't do it in large transactions because they'll exceed the campaign finance limits. So what they do is they take a large amount of money and they split it up into a bunch of small transactions, and then they spread those small transactions over a whole bunch of candidates across the country. And those are called Smurfs. And that is structured money laundering in a very engineered manner. And what I found is when I first looked over this data from Victor Marx is a lot of these Smurf entities are contributing to Victor Marx. And so the before database have a bunch of Smurf entries in it contributing to Victor Marx. It turns out the after database also has the same Smurf entries contributing to Victor Marx. So when they said they were going to fix the problem that was found, they fixed one problem, but they didn't fix the bigger problem, which is the Smurfs are still there. And I almost think maybe they screwed the database up on purpose in order to have a plausible excuse of why there was a problem with the database, hoping people would just believe it was a simple sort error to try to cover up the smurfing operation. But it isn't only Victor Marx that has Smurfs. There are a few other people in the state of Colorado that have Smurfs. In fact, everyone that would be responsible for prosecuting on the Smurfs happens to also have Smurfs donating to their campaigns. And so a lot of people in Colorado, pretty high up, some of them which we've just mentioned, are going to have a really bad couple days and weeks ahead. And so what these videos show is the progression of the campaign contributions as they come in from the top 500 Smurfs that I've found, with the help of some other wonderful people like Chris Gleason, which is Immutable Christ on X, brilliant guy running for Senate in Florida. And he was the one that's uncovered all the smurfing initially. In fact, his data is what James O'Keefe got. And when James started knocking on the doors, and the reason it was called smurfing is because little old ladies were answering the doors and they were stealing the identities of these little old ladies and using their identity to launder all this money into these campaigns.
So let's play video number one. Get right into it. Go.
Uh-oh.
Mark?
Yes, I'm here. I'm just hoping I can make it through a toll.
So this first video that doesn't have audio, what am I looking at right now?
The first video is, and sorry about my pauses here, I've got an 8-foot wide trailer going through an 8-foot 2-inch toll booth. It is an animation of the 500 Smurf contributions. How much?
And a vast majority of those, by the way, are in Colorado.
Yeah, there are a lot of them are in Colorado.
And of these top 500, that's all right.
Okay. These tolls suck, by the way, just so you guys know. This is really expensive.
Mark.
All right. Thank you. All right. I'm through it.
These show donations, Smurfs all over the country and where they come from, and a vast majority of them are in Colorado.
Yeah, there's a lot of them in Colorado. Absolutely. Yep.
All right. Do we have the other video?
Yep. The other video is just sliding window of it. So you could see it a little bit different way to look at it. It's a sliding window of several days over time. I just wanted people to be able to visualize it. Plus, the nice thing about the sliding window is you can see where the donations are hopping in at different times throughout the year, from beginning of the year all the way to current. It's just interesting. Right. I want people to start looking, is what I want them to do.
So this video, this is the overtime, and you can start to see where it had a vast majority of them over time that still came from Colorado. Now these are 500 of the top, right? Correct?
Yeah, the top 500, absolutely.
And of that, how much money is that top 500 Smurf accounts?
The top 500, I think, is about $98,000.
So you have $98,000 since the beginning of the year that came in. Now he said he's raised 2.3 million, but he raised 1.8 million before December of last year. So he's only raised an additional 400,000 this year.
No, I don't think it was 1.8 before then. I think it was substantially less. I thought it was 1.1 or 1.2 back then. I'll have to look, but I think it was less. Yeah.
So he's raised $1 million this year.
Possibly. I'll have to take a look. Now, the cool thing about this is anyone can download this data and look at it themselves, and I encourage everyone to do it. Just go to Colorado Tracer website, TRACER, and just like do a Google search on Tracer, Colorado Tracer campaign contributions, and you can go download the entire Excel file. And you can go back year after year after year. Just download it and start looking through it. And you can filter it by candidate. And I suggest you filter it by candidate. Look at Victor Marx, but start looking at the other candidates too, and you'll see some interesting things, I have a feeling.
All right. Well, Mark, I'm going to go through a lot of stuff having to do with Coomer. I'm going to literally go through how did I get to Coomer? Like how did I pick Coomer out of a hat? I mean, it's impossible. If Coomer wasn't on the call, and if Coomer's like he's like the linchpin of Dominion. If you go back to 2005, right, that Smartmatic bought Sequoia Voting Systems. One of their first orders of business was what? Hiring Eric Coomer as the chief architect. But he didn't have any experience being a chief architect. So they made him a chief architect, and the elections went horribly wrong from the second he got in there until Cyphus came in and said, you cannot be owned by Smartmatic. Am I wrong in any of this?
No, I think that's what happened.
And there was this thing called a doctorate dissertation that was written by Eric Coomer at Cal Berkeley. And that had math related to energy decay models, correct?
Yeah, and he is a very smart guy, like a physicist, which is kind of weird to hire, a physicist to work at an election company, a voting system software company. That's bizarre. But if you're going to create an election system that produces synthetic results that you need to make look believable, you would need someone that knows how data can be made to look natural, which is what the decay models are used for. Exactly. Yeah. Yep. You need that kind of expert to be able to pull it off. I mean, they could just hire an idiot, and if they hired an idiot, they would just put out results that they wanted, and none of the data would look real, so it'd be so obvious. But the beauty of this is that it looks real to the untrained eye, and that's the difference. When you have a trained eye look at it, you can still see the fraud. And Eric, he's smart. He's crazy smart. Brilliant guy, absolutely. I wish he wasn't evil and smart, but unfortunately, we have evil and smart people that were used to fool good and ignorant people, and they've done a great job for many decades doing so. That's the most frustrating thing, because I don't like evil people, and I like to protect good people, and it hurts me to see good people being taken advantage of by evil people. And it also is insulting me that smart people would be evil, because why do that? Well, if you're smart, if God,
well, keep in mind when he got involved in elections, when Eric Coomer got involved in elections in 2005, he was a drug addict, addicted to heroin, facing by his own admission, 10 years in prison for multiple crimes committed in California related to drug use and alcohol use. Here's a guy that's had 4 DUIs. Not one is stuck. And I'm talking ran into a building.
Like a great candidate. Good candidate for working or designing the system that's part of our national critical infrastructure, isn't it?
Well, it gets even worse. I mean, here's what he's trying to focus in on. Why I wasn't on the call, because you don't have a copy of the call. So I'm going to talk through some of that too, because I want everyone to hear everything about. I want them to get a better idea of how did this all start. But I'm going to let you go so you can get back on the road, so you can get going. But Mark, thanks for joining us. I need to talk to you a little later about the conversation I had prior to this meeting, getting on here. We have I needed a group of people to come together to be able to brief some people. So we'll be having that conversation the next couple of days.
I'm happy to do so. Thank you very much.
Stay on the East Coast.
Oh, well, I will be for a little bit here. And right. Thanks, everyone. Good to talk to y'all, and talk to you soon.
All right. Take care. God bless. All right. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to jump right back into elections. You're going to want to share this and share it wide and far, because we're going to talk about how Eric Coomer, why Eric Coomer. I mean, his attorneys say that I'm fixated on Eric Coomer. And I would say, like I said on the video earlier, if you have a woman that's raped and you have the proof that the woman was raped, but the rapist is like, I didn't rape her, but you have proof. We have near perfect proof. And yet the victim becomes victimized by the perpetrator. And then the media comes out and stands up behind the perpetrator. And then they go to court. He says, oh, I'm going to sue you for defamation. You ruined my reputation by saying that I was a rapist. And she has all of it. She has all the evidence. And there's like other people that come forward and say, he raped me too. 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 And you have this group of evil people backed by a judiciary that says, oh, no. We're going to punish her for talking about the rapist. And then the media comes out and does all this stuff, and she won't stop talking. Why would she stop talking? She's telling the truth. That's what it's been for 6 years. Just telling the truth over and over and over and over again. And I'm going to show you how these same lawyers and these same people for Eric Coomer, they're deeply embroiled in this deal. They have access to all the information out of DC for the Patrick Byrne v. Dominion case. They have access, they have a joint defense agreement with Dominion Voting Systems. They are intimately aware of all the evidence related to Eric Coomer and his involvement in what has happened over the country since 2005 until now. They know about his doctorate thesis. there's no plausible deniability anymore. And they have done everything they can to destroy my life, take from me what's not theirs, and literally put all this, it's like a pressure. They call Facebook, they call X, they admitted that they called Facebook. They admitted it. They have done things like try to strip me of my attorneys, and they're listening right now. They've done all of these things and activated themselves just like the rapist did against the woman they raped. Okay, we're going to destroy Joe Oltmann. We're going to destroy him. And he's just relentless, and we're just going to keep putting bricks on his chest until we kill him. That's what they're doing. So we're going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, we got more. And we're going to get straight into Dominion, straight into Eric, straight into the how and the why. Some of the things that I haven't talked about, at least not on here. We'll be right back.
Oh, hi. I almost didn't see you there. Welcome to DCF Buns, where you can find the freshest buns in town, if I do say so myself. Oh, our master bakers teach class every week. So whether you're new to baking or trying to improve your culinary skills, we got you covered. And we can help you bake the cake of your dreams. We'll even clean your cake if you want. And if you don't want to bake anything yourself, we have loads of fresh buns available in a variety of shapes and sizes. Check us out at dcfbuns.com to learn more. DCF Buns, we keep the buns hot and the deals hotter. Buns.
In every thread, in every stitch, Honor-Bound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Honor-Bound USA, we're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act. As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage. We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let My People Go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in. Join the Honor-Bound USA family today. Wear it as a badge of honor, commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor-bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle.
No, you have to run. Can I ask you one more question about the Dominion voting system? It's being discredited now, but it was discredited in Texas, before the elections. We passed on that voting system, and I want to get the exact quote. Dominion voted system, which has been used in multiple states where fraud has been alleged, blah, blah, blah. It has been rejected by the Texas Secretary of State, Attorney General's office, for failing to meet basic security standards.
President Trump is zeroing in on Dominion voting machines, Dominion voting systems used in 28 states across the country, including battleground states, Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. A January 2019 report from the Texas Secretary of State found a number of issues with Dominion's Democracy Suite 5.5A machine, the same model used, for example, in Pennsylvania. One of the troubling findings by the Secretary of State in Texas was that the voting machine was the voters' inability to check and retain a straight party ballot while no voting a race. Another issue, Dominion's election management system was error-prone and quote-unquote non-intuitive, making it difficult for jurisdictions to master. Even more concerning, the scanner and the tabulator are subject to paper jams. And in order to clear those jams, protective seals had to be broken, which allowed poll workers to see voter choices. The Texas Secretary of State's office ultimately denied the use of Dominion voting systems in Texas, saying, quote, accordingly, based upon the foregoing, I hereby deny certification of Dominion voting systems, Democracy Suite 5.5 for use in elections in Texas.
Any comment on that voting system?
Well, it is huge, and I think that's one of the problems. This is not just a little software glitch. This is a systemic problem within that Dominion system, and I think, number one, we should look at who is in charge of Dominion, and also we should be asking the questions of those secretaries of state and attorney general. Did you go through the same due diligence as we did here in Texas? And that's why Texas is going to continue to be a leader in America.
We knew, no matter where we turned, people with sensibilities stood up against Dominion voting systems. We knew that the system was designed to defraud the American people. We have Maduro in custody. We have affidavits from people that we've gotten that used to run a security force. We knew. We knew. And yet here we are. You have the ASOG report. You have every single person that's been involved in any way and bringing information to the forefront in any way. It doesn't matter what way we're talking about. There's never been a time inside of this that we found evidence and said, oh, that's true. No, they say it's human error. There's not been one time that Dominion voting systems by the media standard has not been able to evade any sort of accountability. Not once. Let's talk through it. Arizona, Runbeck, Virginia. No, it's just 51 to 49%. Conveniently, the state is flipped, is cut in half. Conveniently. And it's always that you have mail-in ballots, open primaries. Again, they have the ability to change the game any way they want, in any state that they want. And we sit here for the last 6 years and we throw as much as we possibly can on it, only to have Fox News and CNN and MSNBC and our legislators like Thune tell us there's nothing to see here. I don't think there's any massive fraud. And the American people suffer over and over and over again. The judiciary lets criminals out on the street, appointed by people who are deviants at best, criminally evil at worst. And we sit back and we let it happen. So how did I find Coomer? If he wasn't on the call, how does a guy so rife with corruption, so filled with hate and anger, an admitted Satanist, how does that guy run 50% of the vote of the American people? And by his account, he was just in charge of marketing. He wasn't responsible for anything. They took a guy responsible for marketing as a chief architect back in 2005, and they sent him to Serbia. And they said, hey, do me a favor, marketing guy. We also want to send you to Mongolia and to China and to Serbia, or not Serbia, but Venezuela. I mean, I could just go down the line. It wouldn't be hard. He can't escape the simple fact that everywhere he goes, there's fire. And until we started digging into the theories of his doctorate dissertation, until I just started getting into that and understanding it, oh my gosh, he is smart. He's deviantly smart. He thinks that he's so smart that he can't be caught. And every time he gets caught, and let's just remind you that he testified in Georgia. That testifying led to the conviction, or excuse me, the indictment of President Trump in Georgia. Well, President Trump did nothing. He did nothing wrong. We could all see it. And we've forgotten about more facts. We have clearly forgotten about more facts than could ever be put on paper because there's so much of it. It's so easy. You have victim after victim after victim after victim. And every time you dig into it, you got loads of information related to how fraudulent the elections are. And they're like, nope, count matches in Arizona, no problem. You have you have Doug, who was the head of the elections, or excuse me, of the audit in Arizona, that got on this show. He's the one that leaked to me a report that said the election machines are fraudulent. But you had a attorney for the Senate that had a full right under his contract to rewrite and delete anything that he deemed not important and or confidential in the reports to be redacted. And Doug got on this show. He has 11 kids. They picked the perfect guy. Pick a guy who literally has too much to lose. They did. And here's the other thing you need to know about that, is that Doug was at Tomatley with Lynn Wood in November of 2020. That's the guy that they picked to do the audit in Arizona in 2021. In November of 2020, go check my math, he was at Tomatley with Lynn Wood, General Flynn, Sidney Powell. Check my math. And I'm not saying that any of those people are responsible for anything, but isn't it convenient that we're sitting here right now? And I know some of you are sitting back going, whoa. Remember, November of 2020, November 3rd, I'm up elk hunting, November 6th, well documented. I'm ho-humming. Everything's fine. We're hanging out there. Got a friend there with a small child. Two of our close friends, my wife and I's close friends. And that's when my life changed that night. First time I ever had an argument with my friend. Got an affidavit from him. And I can get more affidavits of people that were there, but I'm so afraid of what would be done to them. Because they'll just ruin everyone that they touch. That I was willing to withstand the scrutiny of the Antifa kid. I was willing to withstand the scrutiny of other people that they wanted to just skewer. And they haven't stopped. November 3rd, 2020 has changed my life forever. November 6th really changed it. November 9th, I can never go back. December 12th, that's when Eric Coomer wrote this article in the Denver Post. They posted it, put it out there, and he's like, yeah, all that stuff's fabricated. All the social posts, they're not real. And it all played into, these pieces played into it. Let me go back to Doug for a second when he did the audit in Arizona. He got on my podcast and he said, Joe, I couldn't write all that stuff because it would have been a constitutional crisis. He let it out. Now the rule is that if you're a privately held company, you're not subjected to CORA or FOIA or any Federal Records Act. That's why they use them as pseudo-government agencies doing a public good. Because they can just do whatever they want, act with impunity. It's a kind of an end around. It shouldn't be, but it is. And Doug gets himself in a lawsuit, and the judge, these crooked judges, say, oh, no, you're subject to an open records request. And every day that you don't pay or give us that information, we're going to charge you, we'll fine you $10,000 a day. And it did what it was supposed to do. It put him out of business. So you had a guy that did an audit, said there's a constitutional crisis, uncovers all the fraud inside of Arizona's elections. And what did the media say? They said nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. You can't see anything here. Nothing. All the counts match, ignoring the massive number of boxes that had 30, 32, 33 different precincts in each box. And that they were all unsealed except for the ones that were supposed to be used for the RLAs, risk limited audit. You've forgotten more about the fraud that happened in 2020 and how they basically covered it up in 2022 very easily by passing legislation and attacking people and chilling public discourse on looking at the transparency of elections. They did that. I've spent 6 years fighting. It's been nearly the most difficult 6 years of my life, easily. And for those of you that don't know, I have spent the vast majority of the last 20 years just serving people, incarcerated men, gang members, playing football, hanging out with people who just needed mentorship, building companies, loving on people, committing myself to the nonprofit world to help the poorest among us. I lost every one of the appointments on every board that I was on. All of them. They're all like, yeah, Joe, you're... Because the media came out and said, this is a bad guy. Yeah, bad guy. They get to pick winners and losers in the media. They get to lie with impunity. They get to attack people's families. They attacked my wife. They attacked my children. They did horrible things all the way down. And then you get the lawyers on Friday that, by the way, sat on a stand and just lied. So much so that I couldn't, and you could see this smirk on his face, knowing that he was lying. That Brad Clover was lying and that Kane was lying. It's kind of weird that his last name's Kane. And the judge just allowed it. Show me one piece of evidence that showed that I was ever showing or calling for violence against any of them. It didn't exist. Well, it didn't stop them from having 8 hours of their fun of putting more bricks on my chest. Because the whole deal is, how do we destroy Joe Oltmann? Just like, how do you destroy the woman that got raped? How do you destroy the man that got maimed in an accident by a drunk driver? How do you do anything you can to say I'm innocent when you know for a fact that the evil that you represent and you did was absolutely true? You know, we get to the bottom of it and I'm like, oh, I didn't even think about that. We can get it from this person. I'm going to start here though. You know, I've been working on all this information related to Eric Coomer, and I've been on here talking about Dominion voting system, and I wasn't so much fixed on Eric Coomer as I was, how did they do it? How did they, and making sure that I could prove everything. And so I gather information, I read and I read and I read and I read, I'm reading more and reading more and reading more. And some of you don't understand that, like, I have a thirst for knowledge that is unquenchable. I built this Substack. Go ahead and put the Substack up. And I went to do some more Substacks, and I was like, I'm not going to do more Substack right now. Because my lawyer's like, hey, don't put out any more information. But put up Article 3, or C3, please. And I don't know, I still can't get into the document, by the way. I don't know who locked me out of it, but I can't, it appears to be locked. Let me see if I can do it really quick. I'll just do this really quick, see if it lets me. Oh, it let me in. Okay, good. So I'm gonna slow down here for a minute. I said I'd go over today, so I hope you were looking for more time with me today. You guys didn't put the link in there. Yeah, you did. Pass. You did. Let me read a little bit to you. This was in August of 2025. And I had sent it over to a bunch of people, and I keep asking all these people that are professors, will you come out and talk about this? And I finally found a few people that are willing to testify to this, right? I'm like, listen, let me show you how to convert what he did in his doctorate dissertation over to the math that would be needed inside of elections. This is why they hunted him, which means that the CIA and intelligence community had to be actively involved in this. They had to. They had to go looking for him. He had to be recruited into this idea that he could, through this process, change the course of history forever for our nation. It took someone like Coomer, someone super smart, but troubled. You would have had to be a troubled individual, a tormented soul, in order to do what he's done over the last 20 years. And I'm not just talking about stealing elections and creating a system that would allow for fraud to be pushed on the people of multiple nations. It would be the sadist part of being so powerful that you get to do things to influence history. But then doing it and saying, well, I wanted to destroy this society anyway. You would have to be that type of person. So let me read it for you. Are you ready for this? I'm going to do a lot of this. I'm going to do a lot of this. I've had enough of the BS. The part you're not going to get in this report, of a couple dozen Venezuelans from 2006 Genesis, 3 became whistleblowers in 2020. 1 was murdered in 2022. That'll be a story all in itself. So much for perfect villain. No, I'm pretty sure he is the villain. And what I'm referring to is that he had an article written by the New York Times that basically walked past all the things related to Eric Coomer and act like they didn't exist. From social posts to being a Satanist to the multiple DUIs to the heroin addict, made him look like a hero. Again, making the perpetrator the victim, and making the victim the perpetrator. The name Eric Coomer has become synonymous with the swirling controversies surrounding the 2020 U.S. presidential election, which questions of voter fraud and technological manipulation dominated headlines. As a former executive at Dominion Voting Systems, Coomer's career trajectory from the nuclear engineering PhD to the pivotal role in election technology raises questions that span decades, continents, and a web of companies with murky histories. Reviewing the logic based on his recruitment by Sequoia in April 2005 as chief architect, his presence during the 2006 investigations into illegitimate elections, and over 16 years with Sequoia Dominion have multiple transitions. This article weaves together a comprehensive narrative. It integrates his academic background, patent innovations, corporate roles, and the tangled relationships between Sequoia Voting Systems, Smartmatic, ES&S, Premier, and Dominion, alongside persistent suspicions of impropriety. Consistent, dating all the way back to Cephas saying, we cannot have Venezuelan elections influencing what we did. Think Devil's Playground, Venezuela. You know, I often, or I'm going to sit here for a second, I often equate what's happening to this with the Lion King. Mufasa dies, the other lion comes in, destroys it, turns everything dark. Look at what happened in 2004 in Venezuela. It was the third richest country in the world, most prosperous economic system in the world. Fast forward to 2000, by 2011, you had doctors eating out of trash cans. You had people that were highly educated, couldn't seek work. An economic system that collapsed on itself. The first of many to show what they can do in the United States. And it became the epicenter of the election system that was brought to the United States to be used against the American people, Smartmatic. And in 2005, on the heels of what happened in 2004, putting Hugo Chavez in his positions of trust and authority as the president of the country, even as the United States knew it was a fraudulent election, it allowed Smartmatic to come in and buy Sequoia, which had 17 states in the District of Columbia under its belt. It took not more than a year later. They're like, whoa. And CIFIS, an organization that oversees national security threats in the United States, immediately did what? Came out and said, no, you have to sell. And there's more to that as well. The people that were put in positions to oversee that, guess who worked underneath them as the chief architect the entire time? And why was the chief architect, Eric Coomer, then moved out of the role of chief architect into something that was much more benign? They already had it, I guess. Let me show you how to implement it, I guess. Let's read more. Whew. It calls for more suspicion than Al Capone has as the head of the crime family. The reality, as pieced together from public record, leaked documents, media reports, paints a picture of smoke where the implications are profound, particularly in exploring whether a single individual like Coomer could theoretically implement subtle manipulations through mechanisms like rootkits or mail-in ballots by way of machine manipulation. Anomalies in states like Georgia, Colorado, Nevada, Michigan, Pennsylvania, New Mexico, and Arizona all shared substructure glitches, and massive resistance to transparency further amplified these concerns. It is important to note that there's been zero examination of the source code of Dominion voting systems or any other voting system in 11 years leading up to the 2020 election. Zero. Cursory verification was done. Base operating code went unaudited as verifiably reported. Everywhere there's a problem in election technology, from 2006 Chicago glitches to 2010 Mongolia failures, 2010 to 2013 Philippine scandals to 2020, 2022 U.S. state anomalies. Eric Coomer is there with a 0.99% correlation to the system decay model and his thesis mirroring pixel erosion in his patents. The pattern suggests that systemic vulnerabilities that one architect could theoretically exploit over 16 years. They have stated there's no evidence, yet the evidence is so widely available and pervasive, it draws the conclusion of corruption and institutional rot that could only trace back to a couple of national organizations, namely the CIA and the FBI. The roots of modern election manipulation suspicion trace back to Florida. a hotbed for controversies like the 2000 hanging Chad scandal on December 13th, 2004, just months before Coomer's April 2005 recruitment by Sequoia. Computer programmer Clinton Curtis testified under oath before the U.S. House Judiciary Committee. Democrats. Curtis working for Yang Enterprises, a Chinese company. In Oviedo, Florida, claimed it was asked in October of 2000, by then Florida House Speaker Tom Feeney, YEI's lobbyist and corporate attorney, to create vote rigging software that flips elections 51-49 without detection. The code hidden in source code, undetectable without review or paper receipts. Curtis assumed it was for defensive, but was told to hide the fraud to control the vote in South Florida. 51-49. What are we seeing in most of our elections across the country? We're a near perfect split society, 50% on the left, 50% on the right. We know it's not true. And there's another thing they had to have happen. They had to have guys like me that are out there that actually are data collectors that understand the propensity. It's called a PPV, propensity and probability value. Which way do they lean? Do they propensity to lean left or lean right? And by creating this independence in the middle, where you automatically register every person that moves to a different state as a independent voter if they don't go and pick being a Democrat or Republican, it gave them the ability to fill the gap with fake and fraudulent votes, which is why you saw so much happen in the 2020, 2022, and 2024 elections. But they made it more difficult for the people to look for and get transparency. The roots of the modern election, YEI's ties add intrigue. Curtis reports Chinese spy Henry Ni at Yi hacking NASA contracts and sending anti-tank missile chips to China. Ni was arrested in 2004. Florida's proximity to Smartmatic's Boca Raton founding 2000 and Venezuela-linked founders Venezuelan Chavez contracts is notable. Smartmatic won Venezuela's 2004 referendum amid fraud claims. Writes as Curtis testifies. This Venezuela-Florida nexus with YEI's CCP ties via Ni sets a suspicious stage for Coomer's entry into Sequoia, Smartmatic-owned, Venezuela-funded. The timing, Curtis undetectable rigging prototype in 2000, Feeney meeting in 2000, Coomer recruitment in 2005, suggests a pattern where Florida originated tech vulnerabilities migrated to Venezuelan-linked firms with Coomer positioned to refine them. Verification, and I took that out. And yet, all this information came from stated sources. When, by the way, those stated sources that I had then, I had to go back and make sure that I had something that showed that these were the sources, because now some of those sources have now since disappeared. Why would they? To illustrate the correlations, below is a detailed timeline of Coomer's career and related election irregularities. Dates are drawn from patents, company announcements, media reports, forensic analysis, showing Coomer's presence at every major junction. There will not be emails or supporting information. That information will be published with additional verifiable sources. All information present has passed cursory peer review, and I reserve the right to update the information as clarity and evidence are presented. See, there's more information that I've had the ability to look at. So there'll be more that will actually garner from this. 2007, Coomer completes his PhD thesis on plasma decay, modeling gradual erosion foundation from theoretical decay algos and later patents pixel reduction in US 9202113B2. In 2000, Smartmatic, founded in Florida, YEI's Curtis firm, created rigging prototype for Feeney. 2004, Smartmatic wins Chavez referendum amid fraud. Subtle algorithm. This was Blitzta investment, 28% Venezuelan stake. We can talk more about that. I did actually write another Substack related to Blitzta investment and how they were able to sidestep being owned by Venezuela by saying, well, it's not really, it's a U.S. corporation, kind of like what they did in the United States when they had Dominion in Canada, Dominion over in Serbia, which was the original, and then Dominion that they put in Colorado that ended up purchasing Sequoia Voting Systems. December 13, 2004, Curtis testifies on rigged software. April 2005, Coomer cold call recruitment. He said himself He was cold called. Somebody cold called Eric Coomer. Now, as chief architect under Smartmatic, acquired in March of 2005 with $120 million Chavez funds. His background, DUI, jail, addiction, previous work history, raised vetting questions. In other words, there's no way he could have passed a background check to work at McDonald's, let alone be the chief architect for 17 states and the District of Columbia. And by the way, all of this information Eric Coomer's attorneys know because they have access to all the information out of Dominion Voting Systems, lawsuits with Fox and with Patrick Byrne. Keep in mind the same judge in that case out of DC sealed and made it unavailable to the public because the public is not entitled to information related to how the election systems are being run or to what corrupt degree we're dealing with machines and mail-in ballots that are absolutely fraudulent. You're not allowed to see it. That coincides, by the way, if you go forward, it was just a month ago or so that the same judge ordered Stephanie Lambert, by the way, Eric Coomer's attorneys, same thing, in this joint defense agreement, had them kicked off of Patrick Byrne's lawyers and had to hire new attorneys, which they're now trying to kick off again. Same thing that they did here in Colorado with me, resulting in me having to go through attorneys so that they could try to destabilize what information those attorneys have access to. Same pattern of habit. But this attorney in DC tried to force Stephanie to destroy all the information he had related to the case of Patrick Byrne v. or Eric Coomer v. or Dominion, excuse me, Dominion v. Patrick Byrne. The perfect cover-up. Not because it's within the best interest of the American people, but because they want to continue to hide the improprieties inside of a rotted judiciary. But it's not done yet. And if you're not disgusted yet, you should be. And if you're not understanding what I'm saying currently, we're going to go through more. There's more stuff for you to see. Because I was called a liar. All he had to do was say this. All Coomer had to do was this. Come out in November and be like, look, I was on that call. I had a couple too many drinks. I was being bombacious. I probably would have left it at that. But when you came after my family, and then I had to hire security, and then you said that I was lying when I wasn't. Like there was nothing for me to gain by lying. Nothing. The only thing that it created was absolute headaches for me and my family for the last 6 years. And it took away from me the ability to help people. So one thing that on Friday I started thinking about, and I just started getting really angry. Like I enjoyed helping people in the poorest of communities. I enjoyed it a lot. I enjoyed helping people in need. It's what I thrive doing. Let's read more of this. Put it back up. In March 2006, Sequoia glitches in Chicago. Dozens of Venezuelans flown in support of staff software. Coomer at ground zero. I was supposed to redact where I got that information. Probably should still. 2006 CIFIS probe investigates Smartmatic Venezuelan ties. Coomer's software under scrutiny based on multiple points of failure. This was because of a whistleblower report in in July of 2006 from a whistleblower. November of 2007, Smartmatic sells Sequoia to U.S. managers retaining IP. Let me just say that again. They retain IP. So this is the first nexus. If you were to split off and say, okay, the foundation of the software now is ink dry and Smartmatic. It's now operating around different parts of the country. It's notably in California. We saw what happened there. They retain the IP. It's a ruling from 2008. Guess who remains? Eric Coomer. 2009, Dominion Smartmatic partnership begins. Coomer at Sequoia during the integration. Multiple election failures. Massive election failures happened in 2009, 2010. And they're like, oh, we're just getting our feet wet. There was lots of excuses as to why the machines. Now, there was somebody that was actually working in 2008 during that time with him. He came forward and gave us access to all these emails. And he talked about the fact that they would brag about getting into systems, changing votes, moving things around, and coming out without anybody detecting it. His words that he backed up with information back in 2020. 2010, Dominion acquired Sequoia June 4th. Coomer transitions to VP of U.S. Engineering. Mongolia parliamentary election used licensed Dominion tech, glitches, failures, Smartmatic lawsuit claiming Dominion didn't fix. Claimed that Dominion collected data from centralized location in Mongolia. Guess who was present? Eric Coomer. Now, he originally said that he wasn't there. But we caught him because we had an email that showed that he was there, bragging about being there, actually. 2010, 2013, Philippine election glitches, 2010 to 2013. Dominion scanners, litigation, alleges fraud. Coomer present. 2011 to 2015, Coomer co-invents 11 Dominion patents, including adjudication, thin air potential. In other words, manufacturing ballots out of thin air. We saw it happen all over the country. 2012, Smartmatic sues Dominion for breach, alleging interference in Mongolia and Puerto Rico, Coomer in leadership during dispute. 2014, Ukraine Maidan events reportedly used Dominion system. Coomer presence reported. 2015, 2018, Smartmatic bribery in Philippines. There's an indictment in 2024. Coomer at Dominion. 2016, Dominion Serbia data center built by Roaming Networks, Huawei partner. Coomer demonstrates adjudication in Colorado bulk, explaining bulk mark it as filled in, critiques alleged vote flipping capabilities. 2020, we saw the anomalies in Georgia, Colorado, Nevada, Michigan, Pennsylvania, New Mexico, Arizona, blah, 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 blah. Keep going. Glitches, spike, resistance, audits, Antifa call, Coomer's Facebook post exposed by Joe Oltmann. That'd be me. November 9th, 6 days after the election. Mesa Report 1 dropped in September of 2021. Mesa Report 2 dropped in March of 2022. August 2024, Smartmatic exec indictments. 2024, 2025, Tina Peters is put in jail, gets 9 years. The timeline is a 40,000-foot view of Coomer, 50 sub-events involving election denials, glitches, lawsuits, presentations, conflicts, all involve Eric Coomer. Coomer's decay thesis, erosion, mirrors patent pixel manipulation with anomalies, glitches, fraud, claim tracking his role from Chicago 2006 all the way through the 2020 election. Coomer's personal history mimics improprieties within the election industry nearly identically. Born around 1970, he grew up as a rebellious son of a Vietnam veteran, identified as an anti-racist skinhead, if that even exists. In his youth, his life unraveled with heroin and cocaine addiction, multiple driving under the influence DUI charges, nothing shows up. Okay. Guy's a prince. In 2005, fresh off the turmoil, receives a cold call to join Sequoia Voting System as the chief architect. A cold call. Now, he was doing websites at the time, so I don't know where that would have come from. Cold call to be the chief architect of a company that was just bought by Smartmatic. They hired him despite a background that would likely fail McDonald's background check. Marks an odd pivot. Sequoia was then owned by Smartmatic, a Venezuelan firm founded in 2000 by Antonio Mujica, Alfredo Anzola, and Jorge Massa, which would leverage $120 million from the Hugo Chavez's 2004 referendum contract to acquire Sequoia in March 2005. Now, we know that's not likely. The Florida connection is striking. Curtis 2004 testimony, the lobbyists that are connected to China, who then gets indicted. And you see these indictments happen all over the election systems. You can read the rest of this. We'll put it in the Substack and everything so you can go back and read it. And I'll put it out, if we put it out on all the socials, please, as well. The information that came out of the Dominion v. Patrick Byrne case, as Stephanie Lambert dug into it, remember she was the one that was charged in Michigan. She just actually had those charges thrown out. Came forward and said these are crimes that were committed by people, and one of the people in particular was Eric Coomer. Now, the information was so sensitive that Dominion freaked out and said we need to seal this information from the public view. And so the judge, because of ex parte communication that happened because of a third party that was acting to liaise that information between Dominion and the judge. Suppress that information from the public. Public eye would have resolved a lot of these issues that we're dealing with right now. And here's an image of a letter that Darleaf wrote to Jim Jordan that talks about the hacking of elections is obvious. Put it up. C47. Can we put up C4? Let me read this to you if I can. And I told you before, there's more to this because I want to talk to you about the fact of what they've said and the lies that they continue to actually tell. But they told those lies on Friday, and every time they told them, I was like, oh, that's important. Let's listen to what they're saying and not what they didn't say, not what they did say. This is on March 17th of 2024. This is to Jim Jordan, which, by the way, is acted like the hot potato is just too hot. Again, we have the House, we have the Senate, we have the ability to make and effect changes, and yet I still believe that we're going to have to institute martial law in order to get ourselves out of this. It is the only lever left on the table. And that leads to indictments. And everyone says that, Joe, it's a little crazy that you'd have military tribunals. It's really not. Dear Congressman Jordan, my office is investigating criminal acts related to elections in Berry County, the state of Michigan, in the United States. I'm in possession of evidence involving voting machines. Additionally, I have recently received a subpoena from prosecutor DJ Hilson of Muskegon County for my file. DJ Hilson worked with the Michigan Attorney General to bury the Muskegon fraud investigation that was initially reported by the Muskegon local clerk. Not one person was charged related to the Muskegon fraud, despite confessions and physical evidence. Considering this, I'm going to provide portions of my file to Congress for immediate review and investigation. My office has come to possession of evidence that foreign nationalists have accessed electronic voting machines in Michigan and other states. The evidence demonstrates that election voting machines and electronic machines systems used for elections in Michigan and throughout the United States are not secure, and an immediate investigation is needed by Congress. Next one. I have evidence in my file of Serbian foreign nationals entering our election systems while the votes were being counted and prior to certification. The election vendor, Dominion, hired these Serbian employees and disclosed in emails that they are not able to provide backgrounds on the individuals due to the law in Serbia. It has only been more than 25 years since the conflict involving Serbia. Therefore, the United States is allowing a scenario where potentially Serbian military criminals are running our elections and remotely entering our election equipment. By the way, that's totally true. We could talk a little bit about that too. Who's running Dominion in Serbia? I'm investigating the role of some individuals inside the United States have played in conspiring with these foreign nationals and who have even directed and instructed them to access and interfere with election voting machines and election voting machines during past elections, including the November 2020 election. Multiple false assurances from state and federal agencies and private companies that the elections were secure and not compromised through remote network access or otherwise. Moreover, I have evidence the U.S. Dominion and its affiliates, Dominion, instructed its employees to alter or otherwise falsify the integrity of the software and hardware in its voting machines and systems to obtain certification by the Election Assistance Commission, even when they knew that the systems were not properly verified or certified. Additionally, I have evidence that the voting machines and the systems are vulnerable to alteration and manipulation, i.e. interference, by the use of thumb drives and external devices that can be serendipitously connected to voting machines before, during, and after elections. As a result of this information, my office is investigating conspiracy crimes, wire service fraud, honest services fraud, and perjury charges, among other criminal acts. The perjury charges stem from the assurance by Dominion CEO during his written testimony before Michigan legislature that its voting machines and, what did you do? Go back. Go back. There, thank you. Can you go to the next one? You literally hit the button. Can you go back? Go forward, sorry. Just go forward one. It's not that hard, guys. third picture. There you go. That is, voting machines and voting systems could not be accessed or connected to any outside networks and sources, and it was a U.S.-based company. I said, now I have evidence that our election equipment is not secure and become election voting systems prevent transparency, and vendors that have more oversight and authority to have them examined than the officials that are charged with the constitutional duty to ensure our elections are secure, transparent, and fulfill our promise to each and every American that their votes will count and will be properly tabulated and not diluted, deleted, or otherwise altered. I'm presenting you with this letter and an initial tranche of this evidence that you will review it and be compelled to investigate this matter and call those responsible for the breach of the Constitution to give testimony concerning these criminal acts and breach of our national security. These matters impact not only us here in the state of Michigan, but every citizen voter in the country who relies on the constitutional promise that each legal registered citizen vote should have one vote, and that vote should correctly reflect his or her will and choice. Go ahead and put the last page up. As a constitutional officer, my duties are defined by my oath of office. The Constitution, statutes govern my office, and those powers at common law that were recognized as being attached to my position. In light of this evidence, I am suggesting that every election official consider an emergency backup plan for upcoming elections to prepare to verify all ballots and voters and to hand count paper ballot at the end of elections to confirm the accuracy of the vote. The voters and our election machines are working properly. There's no harm confirming these results to ensure that the will of the people is reflected. Thank you in advance. Excuse me. For your prompt attention to this matter, please do not hesitate to contact me if there is any questions or you would like any additional information concerning my investigation. As it stands, I have no faith in the federal institutions that allowed this garbage in the first place. Therefore, I am attaching unredacted documents for your review. More importantly, for review of by the American people. This should allow for Congress to issue subpoenas in an expedited fashion. I look forward to Congress working for the American people, quickly addressing these election security problems while I pursue the criminal investigation with sheriffs across the country. Sincerely, Dara Leaf. Okay, let me just tell you where that went. You guys want to know where that went? Anybody? Go take it down. It went nowhere. There was never an investigation, and Jim Jordan did not even call for a special hearing. He took that information and he swallowed it. He swallowed it. Put up the document 8, please. So this is the, go ahead, push it up, push it up, push it up. This is the supplement regarding the Dominion voting system subpoena. Now, I want to be really clear. I went ahead and this particular thing is that Eric Coomer sought to have in the deposition they did with Patrick Byrne. He sought to have information protected. Now, we were able to file orders inside of the state court. Can you make this bigger at all? Is it possible to make it bigger so I can read it? Just put it on the big screen and just blow it up a little bit. Take me off. We can't make it any bigger? I can try to read it. Let me just try to read it. Well, it's not going to help if I can't read the whole thing. There you go. All right, that works. Come now, the defendant, Joseph Oltmann, go down through. Hear this, go to this. On January 16, 2026, 10 days prior to Eric Coomer's deposition, and the Eric Coomer, why did he move over? What? Okay, there you go. In the Middle District of Florida, Coomer filed a motion for protective order, seeking to limit the range of topics on which he could be deposed. Specifically, he sought to preclude inquiry into foreign and domestic election interference, his role in the election interference, and what Dr. Byrne described as an ongoing criminal investigation into those matters. Coomer expressed an intention to invoke his Fifth Amendment privilege and engage in substantial hand-wrangling over what he characterized as Byrne's and her counsel's intention to probe Coomer's participation in an international conspiracy to interfere with the 2020 presidential election in the United States, including working with actors from Venezuela, Serbia, and China. He sought to place all such inquiry off limits, as well as inquiries into criminal conduct, such as money laundering or bribery of public officials, access to ballot images, source code changes, post certifications, honest service fraud, misleading municipalities with splash screens, and implementing and distributing versions incapable of counting write-in candidates with no disclosure to state or municipal government. Dr. Byrne is privy to materials related to Dominion in the U.S. Dominion Inc. versus Patrick Byrne case, as in Dr. Coomer. Dr. Byrne is represented by the same counsel in each case, as is Dr. Coomer. Byrne's attorney petitioned the D.C. Circuit on January 5th, 2026, to lift the protective order so that he could comply with the Oltmann defendant's subpoena. That's my subpoena. You went too far. Can you please go down? Okay, got it. On January 22nd, 2026, Dr. Byrne responded to the motion. He asserted the defense of substantial truth and explained that it was entitled to inquire into the circumstances with a wide network of Dominion employees, contractors, and manufacturers to allow alteration to tally results in the November 3rd, 2020 election. In other words, Dr. Coomer wants the court to deny Dr. Byrne the opportunity to obtain evidence which proves that the statements in the deep rig and the implications of the statement are true. Dr. Byrne explained what evidence it currently possesses and established Dr. Coomer's involvement with former Venezuelan election officials, some of whom are now under indictment in the United States, and a history of Dominion's purchase of Smartmatic, also under indictment. With his subsidies, Sequoia Voting Systems, Dr. Byrne has provided documentation establishing Eric Coomer's shares patents with former Sequoia employees and a Serbian engineer tied to Huawei. According to Byrne, exposition of the materials produced by Dominion in the DC case, they established that Eric Coomer was a major participant and coordinated with others at Dominion, which the discovery documents testimony would be utilized by Dr. Byrne in his truth defense, and that the statements made in the deep rig were true. On January 23rd, 2026, Dr. Byrne filed an addendum in his response, in which he set forth contained admissions by Dr. Coomer in response to discovery requests. As part of his job responsibility and marketing activities, remember he said he was marketing now, not the chief architect, which he was. Which, by the way, that's what you do when you're basically trying to hide someone, just so we're clear. As his job and responsibilities and marketing activities, Eric Coomer previously met with individuals of foreign countries to discuss Dominion equipment. Eric Coomer discussed vote adjudication software with internal Dominion employees he understood to be from foreign countries. Eric Coomer discussed election system code with internal Dominion employees he understood to be from foreign countries. Eric discussed programming at a code-based level with internal Dominion employees he understood to be from foreign countries. Mission 35. Serbian employees had the ability to connect to Dominion equipment in Dominion's Denver office to troubleshoot technical issues, clarifying this was distinct from remote access to Dominion's equipment fielded in customer jurisdictions. But just keep in mind, you have to have one to do the other. During Dr. Coomer's deposition on January 26, 2026, he made the following admissions in direct contradiction to his testimony in Georgia grand jury proceedings, in which he testified, "I'm going to ask you, did you rig the election campaign?" His answer was, "No, I didn't, nor would I even be able to." What does that mean? I'm not able to. I don't have the access. I don't have the ability to explain any of these vulnerabilities, and it's not me. I mean, counties, states run elections. Dominion just builds the hardware and provides them the software. We do not run elections. I do not have, nor do I have the technical capabilities to be able to, compromise all the security and processes that are in place that would be needed to affect an election. In the January 27th, 2026 deposition in Tampa, Florida, Dr. Coomer made a number of admissions, including he admitted in his deposition he had access to the tally, and he had accessed it live and printed it during the 2020 presidential election and primary. He admitted the foreign and domestic contractors could remotely access Dominion machines. He admitted that Serbian contractors could have accessed and altered the application system. He admitted that he had contact with Serbian contractors prior to the 2020 election. He stated he did not know whether foreign contractors could remotely access Dominion machines during the 2020 election. He was the chief of Dominion's security team. He admitted he had provided high-level guidance for certain implementation of the voting system, which covered multiple states. He admitted to having been the chief software architect for Sequoia voting systems, later acquired by Smartmatic, and in turn Dominion. He admitted in writing source code for that system. He admitted that domestic and foreign programmers and personnel had access to the Dominion voting source code repositories. He admitted to having remote access into the Dominion management system and remote desktops at the election centers via VPN. He admitted to having access to integral testing environments, system logs, and audit logs. He admitted to having monitored the results of the Chicago Cook County election in real time on November 3rd, 2020, being able to see the vote tallies prior to certification. He admitted that when a trusted build is installed, it would wipe all of the data from the prior elections, which is directly contrary to the testimony in the Tina Peters case in Mesa County. He admitted that Venezuelan nationals were providing support in the Cook County elections and had access to the voting systems. When asked about his offshore bank accounts, which he had denied owning, he was instructed by his counsel not to answer for reasons of safety. But counsel indicated he does in fact own such accounts. Like Dr. Byrne, Mr. Oltmann, and the extension, the Oltmann defendants, intend to present the defense of substantial truth at trial. They intend to prove that contrary to the averments to the second amended complaint and all prior versions, to his deposition and trial testimony, and to his verified discovery responses, Eric Coomer did, in fact, have the motive, methods, opportunity, means, intentions, and ability to interfere in the 2020 presidential election, and that he was a part of a common Smartmatic Sequoia Dominion international network, which was largely unchanged for 2 decades, that Eric Coomer was a leader and central player in the network, and that Joseph Oltmann reasonably believed he had interfered in the 2020 election. Dr. Byrne, counsel, advised the court of the Middle District of Florida that the Dominion production contained evidence of the network of individuals carrying out the same act of manipulation, deletion, and remote access. But the counsel could not provide greater detail without violating the protective order. The Oltmann defendants are entitled to the discovery evidence they required in order to prove their defense. Eric Coomer and the joint defense partner, Dominion Voting Systems, and its affiliates are not entitled to hide this critical evidence from them regarding of how compromising it is. They sued Oltmann. They cannot they cannot continue to hide truth, and in no proceeding with the semblance of fairness would a court permit them to. Respectfully, the 16th of February, 2026. Don't worry about it. Trump's not going to win. I made effing sure of it. That was the call. Now, I told you we were going to go over today. And I told you we were going to go over because, the critical part about this entire deal is what it's done to me. I've aged 20 years. soon after this thing happened in February, the court in D.C. ordered the destruction of all of the information that was in possession of Stephanie and others. Information that would 100% back up everything that I've produced with Eric Coomer. It just so happens that I know people. And so I didn't break any rules and I didn't break any laws. But I have seen some of the information related in that case. And I know that Eric Coomer's lawyers have seen it too. And so as I sit here and I go, you're playing the game and you're fixing the court, but you don't have any leg to stand on. Your client is in the middle of everything that happened in this country that has ripped this country apart for nearly a decade. And it's been going on for 2 decades. I have more to talk to you about. I'm going to take a quick commercial break, and when I come back, I'll go through the rest of it.
Oh, hi. I almost didn't see you there. Welcome to DCF Buns, where you can find the freshest buns in town, if I do say so myself. Our master bakers teach class every week. So whether you're new to baking or trying to improve your culinary skills, we got you covered. And we can help you bake the cake of your dreams. We'll even clean your cake if you want. And if you don't want to bake anything yourself, we have loads of fresh buns available in a variety of shapes and sizes. Check us out at dcfbuns.com to learn more. DCF Buns, we keep the buns hot and the deals hotter. Buns.
In every thread, in every stitch, Honor-Bound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Honor-Bound USA, we're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act. As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage. We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let My People Go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in. Join the Honor-Bound USA family today. Wear it as a badge of honor, commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor-bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle. I'm going into incredible detail for a lot of reasons. Since Friday, I had a substantial threat. And these people can't stop it from coming out. But they're placating President Trump a little bit. And, they get, James Comey and everything else. And so they're little baby steps. And I know that President Trump's a very smart man. And everybody's like, Joe, you can't support what he's doing over in Iran. I was like, well, actually, I can. Because if you're going to break the back of the devil, and the devil being the Bank of London and all these other places that have subverted and betrayed their own people in the UK, then you have to allow for pieces internationally to fall. And they're like, well, they're doing it for Israel. And I was like, maybe. Maybe they are. But here's the reality. I didn't lie about Eric Coomer. I didn't want to. I believe that you have this thing where God gets you in the middle of things, and I wish he wouldn't have. because the road has been tough. I don't like getting angry. I go back to before 2020 and I was like, I was happy-go-lucky. And before that, my brother died. And it put me in a dark place in 2017, 2018. Because I got to forget for a little bit, because you can advocate for guys that are gang members to, that they didn't do anything wrong, or you can advocate for guys that are just trying to mentoring them into things and they get in trouble with the law. You can go meet with the DA and you can reason with them that this is a good young man. Then my brother died, and I saw them cover up the murdering of my brother and the lies. And it hurt. And I didn't know in 2020 what I'd be facing. And I know the Coomer's lawyers are listening. I know Eric Coomer's probably listening. But they're just not truthful. And they say things like, your obsession. I don't have an obsession. I have an obsession with the truth. But let's bring this up. This is the Tay Anderson subpoena. C10. This is a subpoena to produce documents to Antwana Anderson, a.k.a. Tay Anderson. Go up, please. Okay. This just tells you that we were able to serve this on him and see the exhibit. And this tells you what he has to do, and this is the attorneys for plaintiff. To identify the parties. Go ahead, just go through that and get through that. There you go. So this says that it's served on you by counsel. Pursuant to subpoena, please produce the documents, records, information, things or objects described herein for inspection and copy in accordance to Rule 45 of the Colorado Rules of Civil Procedure and the instructions and definitions provided below. And they've stipulated this is under a confidentiality order, is attached. In other words, we have something that says that we would not put this out anywhere else. And is directed, intended to cover all responsive documents and materials within your possession, custody, or control, including those accessible through your access to any of and all programs. Keep going. Reference below to the extent that Tay Anderson has the practical ability to obtain, access, use, or request such documentation in the ordinary course of business, including by virtue of shared personnel, infrastructure, legal representation, or integrated business operations. Such documents are to be considered within its control for purpose of the subpoena. If Antwan Anderson, aka Tay Anderson, displays access or control over the responsive documents held by other organizations or withholds such documents or otherwise contends its lack of ability to obtain them, please advise us of separate subpoenas, if necessary, letters, rogatory, or, I don't know what that word, I can't see it, may be issued. Thank you in advance for, I'm going to put on your glasses, Joe. Thank you in advance for your prompt response to this matter. Okay, go ahead. Now, let's go down. Stop. So this is what I asked for from Tay Anderson. Now I'm going to show you why this is important. Because Tay Anderson had an affidavit. We're going to talk about that. Unless otherwise specified, these requests generally seek to produce the documents, records, information, things, or objects created, modified, or otherwise related to the time period from January 1st, 2020 through December 31st of 2021, the relevant time period. Complying with the subpoena request, call for the production of all responsive documents things, or objects in your possession, custody, or control, whether held by you or past or present agent, employee, representative, acting on your behalf. These requests also call for responsive documents, information, or objects that you have a legal right to obtain, that you have a right to copy, or you have a right to access, as well as documents, information, things, and objects that you have placed in the temporary possession, custody, or control of a third party. The subpoena is requests are static in nature, seeking documents and information in your possession, custody, and control. Let's see if I got that. As of the compliance state, information, no documentation or information should be destroyed, modified, removed, transferred, otherwise made inaccessible. All responsive documents and information are to be produced as they are kept in usual course of business, including labels, markings, blah, blah, blah. Okay, now let's get to the documents, shall we? Oh, I think you passed some of it. Go down. No, go up, sorry, go up. Pretty sure, stop. Images, there's still file types. Okay, I could go up some more. I'm sorry, go down, sorry. Down is up is down, yeah. Keep going. Those are your definitions. Let's get to the part, keep going. So these go through all the things related to terms, right? And we'll make this available, right? Guys, can we make that available? Okay, these are requested documents. All documents, communication, relevant time period, regardless of the author, sender, or recipient, including limited to all emails, text messages, letters, group chats, concern, refer, relate, or others pertaining to Eric Coomer, Antifa, Black Lives Matter, BLM, or any chapter thereof in Dominion voting systems. All documents, communications from the relevant time period sent from copying or involving Eric Coomer, Antifa, or Black Lives Matter, BLM, or any chapter thereof. All text messages, iMessages, Slack messages, Proton messages, Signal messages, Chan messages, all communication from the relevant time period sent via any text message service with perennial messaging applications, including but not limited to Signal, Proton, WhatsApp, or Telegram between you and Eric Coomer, any Black Lives Matter, BLM, or any other individual regarding either Eric Coomer in September 2020 Zoom call. All communication between you and Eric Coomer, Charlie Kane, Brad Clower, or any agents, employees, investigators, or agent working on their behalf, including but not limited to Brad for Public Relations, all emails, text messages, WhatsApp, Proton, Signal, letters, and group chats. All text messages, iMessages, Slack messages, Proton messages, or other communication regarding but limited to all emails, text messages, letters, or group chats from the relevant time period via any text message service or ephemeral messaging application. That's weird. Including but not limited to Signal, Proton, WhatsApp, or Telegram between you and Sean, Heidi, Beadle. All text messages, communications. So it goes in, by the way, between you and Kyle Clark. And it says all documentation, right, and down here at 11. Provide the Zoom meeting ID from September 25th, 2020, Zoom meeting that you referenced in your affidavit dated September 1st, 2021. Provide the username, email address for your Zoom account that was used in September 25th, 2020, that you referenced in your affidavit regarding September 1st, 2021. Provide documentation of every attendee to the Zoom meeting on September 25th, 2020, where you referenced in your affidavit saying September 1st, 2021. Provide all recordings of the Zoom meeting from September 25th, which you referenced in your affidavit dated September 1st, 2021. Provide all chat logs of Zoom meetings from September 25th, 2020, where you referenced your affidavit dated September 1st, 2021. Keep going. Okay. All right, take that down. Put up the Tay Anderson. Let's show you who Tay Anderson is. This is Tay Anderson. Denver Public Schools board member, right? He's also the one that was accused of doing some pretty bad things to children, which forced him out of politics because of the things that he was accused of doing this sexually to children. There was a lot of allegations. Now, please put up Tay Anderson's affidavit. They tried to suppress this affidavit. This is an affidavit that was presented in September. Now, if I would have had this, if I would have been thinking straight back in September of 2021, I probably would have pursued it then. This is a declaration of Antoine Anderson, okay? So let me just read this to you. My name is Antoine Tuata, whatever his name is, but I'm known as circles as Tay Anderson. Over the age of 21 years old, sound mind and full competent in this declaration. I have personal knowledge of the matters stated in this declaration, which are true and correct. I'm the at-large director of the Denver Public School Board of Education. I was elected to this position in 2019. Throughout the spring and summer of 2020, the Black Lives Matter protest movement grew rapidly in Colorado and specifically in Denver. Following the murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis, the movement drew attention to similar issues here in Denver, specifically with respect to concerns about police brutality. Through the consistent and vocal involvement in Black Lives Matter movement, my public persona grew and I assumed both formal and informal leadership roles within the movement. As a result of the success of the Black Lives Matter movement in Colorado, including a historic passage of the Enhanced Law Enforcement Integrity Act, various political operatives that disagree with our objectives began to target our work, with some individuals even targeting me personally. One of the individuals who targeted Black Lives Matter was Joseph A. Camp. Camp frequently attended public protests where he would photograph participants, harass attendees, and provoke confrontations. Mr. Camp's presence was so frequent and intrusive that it eventually complained to law enforcement. We would file complaints against Camp related to harassment and stalking. On Wednesday, September 23rd, 2020, Camp attended a protest in Denver that I had held organized to demand justice for the murder of Breonna Taylor. Camp arrived with multiple armed bodyguards who were ticketed for carrying large capacity gun magazines that are banned in the city. As a result of Camp's increasingly aggressive and potentially violent conduct, many members of the Denver progressive community, including myself, were deeply concerned of our own personal safety and that of our community. We scheduled a conference call to address the concerns on September 25th, 2020. I do not recall any other call during the mid to late September timeframe that were scheduled specifically to discuss Camp. I want to show you something here in a second. On September 25th, 2020, I participated in a Zoom conference with roughly 15 to 20 other Denver activists who were discussing the escalating threat of violence from Camp and how to best to counter the tactics peacefully. As administrator to the call, I was generally familiar with the call participants who were visible during the call. During the call, no one mentioned Eric from Dominion, and I'm not familiar with anyone who would meet that description. I do not know Eric Coomer, nor have ever met him. In the time working in Denver community, specifically with members of the community that have actively engaged in Black Lives Matter movement with other related movements for social justice, I have never heard of the name Eric Coomer and had any interactions with anyone who claimed to know him. I only became aware of Dominion voting systems in the weeks after the 2020 presidential election and have not followed any news coverage of Dominion closely. Pursuant to this, I declared a penalty of perjury to the law of Colorado that foregoing is true and accurate. Further, the declarant is not, and he signed this affidavit. Okay, pull up my, do we have my notes? We don't have the paper notes, pages and notes. All right, forget it. Anyway, the notes that he references are the things that I talked about in my notes. Breonna Taylor, Tay Anderson was on the call. I was on the call. So he goes out and they find, and I only wrote Tay Anderson in the notes. That's it. So from Tay Anderson, or Tay, I didn't even say Tay Anderson. I think I only wrote Tay. I don't know. Maybe it was Tay Anderson. But I think it was just Tay. But they knew from Tay Anderson to go get an affidavit from this guy in September of 2021. And he knew to write about the things that were in my comments that we talked about. And said, oh, but Eric Coomer wasn't on that call, but there was 15 to 20 other people. So all I want is I want the 15 to 20 other people. I want access to the Zoom call, and so that I can do my own verifications of those people, and I can subpoena all of those people as well. You have a judge in D.C. that through ex parte communication was limiting and trying to destroy evidence inside the case the same way that they did with who? Yep, Jeffrey Epstein in the Virginia Gumphrey case. Same thing, identical. We can't you can't actually use this information because it's damning to Dominion voting systems and it's damning to Eric Coomer. And it also is further proof of all the things that Eric Coomer and Dominion voting systems had engaged in. But Tay Anderson wasn't done yet. He also filed a motion to squash the document, but he never turned it in. But he did send it to me. This is a non-party Antoine Anderson's motion, keep going down, and a motion for sanctions and a protective order. This is crazy. And he goes through this stuff, which he never filed in the court, which is, again, weird. Anderson is not a defendant in the case, not alleged to have been defamatory statements that form the basis of plaintiff's claims against defendant Joseph Oltmann. Nonetheless, the subpoena demands sweeping categories of documents related to political advocacy, activism, and personal communication spanning multiple years and impose complex electronic discovery requirements typically reserved for corporate litigants. The theory underlying the subpoena appears rooted in the same speculative election conspiracy narrative that proliferated following the 2020 presidential election that were repeatedly advanced by allies of former President Donald Trump. Courts across the country have consistently rejected such allegations when subjected to judicial scrutiny. At the time relevant to the allegations of this case, Mr. Anderson was a 21-year-old member of the Denver Public School Boards of Education, a local elected body responsible for overseeing a municipal school district. That the subpoena appears premised on speculation that Mr. Anderson somehow possessed capacity to influence or manipulate the outcome of a national presidential election. No, I didn't. I didn't say anything about that. I didn't say anything about that. Why would he bring that up? Why would he bring that up? That's not what I said. What I said is I just want access to the Zoom call that you filed an affidavit on. It's very clear. I just read it to you. But then he brings it in and makes it sound like I'm talking about him moving an election. I didn't say that at all. The suggestion that a local school board official wielded the power to secretly affect a nationwide election outcome is not merely unsupported, it's facially implausible. Courts do not permit the subpoena power to be used as a tool to search for evidence supported implausible conspiracy theories, particularly when the target of the subpoena is a non-party citizen. Indeed, if Mr. Anderson possessed the extraordinary influence defendant appears to attribute to him, one might reasonably expect the influence to have extended to his own local electoral outcomes. Defendant offers no factual basis for the speculation. The reasons for the subpoena should be squashed in its entirety. Where did I ask for that? Where did I say he had anything to do with it? I never said he had anything to do with it. What I said is I want access to the Zoom call that you said happened on September 25th. I want emails, text messages, signal chats. I want them all. Give me the information. You said Eric Coomer wasn't on the call. So it shouldn't be hard to give it to me then, right? Give me access to the information. Make it easy for me to get to the very end of the thing, which is where? Give me the name of the 15 to 20 people that were on the call. And I will go subpoena and I will depose them as well. But they run the clock and they hide the information, and they knew at the time that he wrote an affidavit. He wrote that affidavit saying that I had this call. They could have put it to bed right then. They could have said, give me your Zoom call. Show me the 15 to 20 people that were on the call. Tell me who the people that were advocating for Black Lives Matter, and that it wasn't an Antifa call, it was a Black Lives Matter call. But even though he was on it, and even though they were talking about camp, and even though the information in my notes lock up to it, which I don't believe it was September 25th, I believe he's hiding the actual date. I do. I believe that. Now, I want to point something else out. They had the opportunity in September of 2021 to say, give us the Zoom link. Now, in the mean of this, I'm taking punches left and right. People coming from everywhere. Everywhere I was turning, I was getting punched. And it wasn't one lawsuit. It wasn't one article. It was article after article after article. Now, let me show you this. And it's just really simple to me. Whether or not you're on a call is trivial to the fact that you were on the call. And whether or not you actually stole the election is completely different. But all the behaviors that happened after that call make you guilty. All the things you did made you guilty, not me. Like, I didn't do it. You lied in an article on December 12th. He lied. Eric Coomer lied. He said that I fabricated all of those social posts, that they weren't him, and I was an imposter. And I was doing this for advertising clicks. I wasn't. I was elk hunting. That's what I was doing. Trying to process what happened on the 3rd, but trying to get away. There was no secondary thoughts of how you could go through this process. It was 100% a breakdown of holy crap. What do I do with this information? I only got a few more minutes. And frankly, it is so then when I finally find out that the Antifa kid is a pseudonym name, that it was a civil rights activist from the 1800s, which just happened this year. I mean, my goodness. Who only comes forward, which means he had to be involved in this. Somehow he still had to have connections to Antifa. Because how else would he know? It was relatively unpublished. The second time I was fined $1,000 a day. For him to reach out to me means he had to have known. He had to have known somewhere, someone said something. He's like, look, man, in good conscience, I can't do this. Here's what I'm going to tell you. Go look it up. And I think to myself, man, it would have been nice to know that I'm protecting. But then there's more information that you have to know. The further you get down this deal and you start talking about the Frank Speech jury form and Mike Lindell's jury form and the My Pillow jury form, you can't run away from all the facts that we have across the country. In his own words, this is a guy that ran into a building, ran into a bar, almost hit a bunch of people, and then lied and got away with it because those same attorneys showed up on the side of the road to negotiate with the police. That actually happened. And let me just show you the Frank Speech, these jury forms really quick so you understand. I spent 2 days on the getting hammered. And I brought in this affidavit and they tried to get it thrown out. This is the verdict form for Frank Speech. Go ahead, go up. Now it says that claim defamation per se has plaintiff provided and set forth the instructions. The defendant, Frank Speech, defamed him by publishing at least one of the statements. He said no. Statement by Lindell, yes. August 12, 2021, statements by Oltmann and Clements. And these are statements that they said that I made. Were they defamatory? No. August 12th, 2021, statements by Clements, yes. Statements by Lindell, no. Statements by Peters, no. Statements by Lindell, no. Keep going. Has plaintiff provided set forth instruction 41 his claim for civil conspiracy against defendant Frank Speech? No. So said no. No. And then said, oh, here, we're going to award you $1,100,000. But then, look at the very bottom. Do you find that the reasonable doubt, go down. The defendant Frank Speech acted in fraudulent, malicious, or willful and wanton manner in causing the plaintiff damage? Yes. Okay, keep going. Go up. All right, now let's go to the one for Mike jury form. So this one, go up, same thing. The way that they actually worded this are the statements made by Oltmann and Clements. And look at what it says on 1D. No. May 3rd statements made by Oltmann House. Instruction 8, paragraph 26. No. Keep going. All the statements made by Oltmann are no. No. Go up. Did he emotional distress? No. Civil conspiracy? No. Right? And then it asks the question, do you find that acted in a fraudulent, malicious, or willful or wanton manner causing plaintiff damages? See it? No. No, he didn't. So basically says he didn't do anything malicious. More importantly, it found me credible in this entire deal. Keep going up. There's 0 for that one. All right, let's go to the next one. This is for MyPillow. Now, the way that they worded all these things, go up or down, sorry. Were the third statements made by Oltmann House found to be defamatory? Right? No. By Oltmann and Clements? No. Everything that I said, they found credible. Keep going up. No. They basically said no. No, he did not, and then no. No. And dismissed it against MyPillow. Go ahead, take it down. If you stayed with me for the last 3 hours, I've done this several times. I'm going to continue to do it this week. I'm going to present more evidence over the next couple days. I'll show you the comments related to all of my stuff. I may actually do a complete comparison of Eric Coomer's doctorate dissertation with the math. I'm going to show you how we converted one to the other so that it mimics it, so you understand how that conversion would actually happen. I'll do that maybe Wednesday or Thursday. But I want to make sure there's a record of all this. And if you're watching this, I might have had a record anyway. I'm looking at the comments now. So they can fine Joe $1,000 a day for not providing his confidential journalistic sources, but they are covering up relevant information, case evidence with no consequences. Yeah, that's true. Look, I have been, I've been at this for 6 years. I'm tired. And yeah, we've covered a lot of different other things other than election fraud. But the vast majority of my time for the last 6 years has been on the cause and effect of stolen elections in our country. And if we don't, I'm going to just tell you right now, if we don't get to a place where we can have free and fair elections, get rid of mail-in ballots, and do the things that are necessary in order to protect the people in this country, we have no chance. And this is a global problem. This is a global problem with global people who have built a wide net of how to take away from people what was never theirs to take. So I'm a danger because I want people tried for treason. Here's what I think has to happen, just so you're clear. We are going to have to arrest people. We're going to have to try people. And yet our judiciary is rotted to the core. We're seeing it everywhere. We see what they did to President Trump. They see what they do to block him at every level. They make sure that that all the things that we do collectively as a group, that all of those things get dismissed, relegated to the sidelines. Now, most of those people don't understand that they're going to come for them first. They're coming for them first. They're going to knock them off one by one because no one can tell the story of what they've done. And so who's going to be the new AG? Who's going to be the one to stand up? Are we going to get to a place where we declare martial law? Is it going to be tribunals? Military tribunal? I don't know. I don't know what you'd call it. Here's what I know. There is a massive, massive amount of unrest with the American people. Democrats, Republicans, Independents, they all feel the same way. They've been betrayed in ways that are hardly recognizable. And while we sit here and we try to come up with solutions, we can't help but see up front and personal just how incredibly rotted our systems are. We can only pray. We can only pray, and we can only stand up, and we can only do the things that are necessary in order to protect our brothers and sisters. I haven't even shown you, but they had the opportunity. And where did I find Eric Coomer? Up elk hunting. And this is the part where it gets really uncomfortable for them. Why didn't they ask Tate Anderson for the Zoom access and the 15 to 20 people that were on it? Why? It would have opened up a lot. So I know that the systems in Colorado are completely, they're compromised. I know that. And yet, we still have to fight. But God. Right, Allie? But God. So I will tell you that you're the ambassadors of truth. You're the only ones that can actually share this. We're going to rerun it a few times over the next couple of days. I have so much information. We have Voter GA that's done so much work. We have the people in Virginia, in Michigan that have been fighting this entire time. You got Steve Stern that puts up a thing down in Florida. You got people that are fighting everywhere. And yet we need to remember where it came from, the genesis of this was in 2005 when Smartmatic bought Sequoia Voting Systems, 17 states and the District of Columbia, and walked roughshod all over us with a guy named Eric Coomer, who was the chief architect. And from there, he sat around there for 16 years. And during that time in 2008, he got a DUI. He was forced not to be able to drive. Oh, don't worry, that case went away too, and it was in Colorado. And then we have the Mongolia, and we have the Serbia, and we got the Ukraine, and we got the China, and we have, man, the connections just become worse and worse in Venezuela, and these guys getting charged at Smartmatic, and all of this just swirls around Dominion, and nothing touches it. And they get a $787 million settlement. And they're above the scrutiny of having FOIA requests and requests to look in the information. And but God, President Trump was elected. And yet, but God, we know that what happened in 2020 also happened in 2022 and 2024. And just because they were able to stop it from happening in 2024 at a presidential level does not mean that it did not happen down ballot across the board, and they tried to pick and choose what they could take. Our election systems are absolutely fraudulent. And Mr. President, if you get a chance to watch any of this, I would just ask you to look at this one thing. The people deserve transparency. 56 cents on every dollar goes to a government entity that they take and hand off in massive fraud deals that ends up in Somalia and imams and illegals and people that came here that have taken advantage of the kindness of the American people. While we step over veterans, while we step over Americans that need that same support, while we don't address the systemic breakdowns in education or the things they've done to take away trade schools or what they've done in the pharma to put drugs in front of us and a vaccine in every needle that you have to have, or just the pushing down flock cameras on every corner so they can watch every move we make. And frankly, maybe you do need it because you got so many radicals in this country that are even in office that maybe it's the only relief valve we have. But then you don't prosecute them anyway, Mr. President. The only way we get through this is to have a Julius Caesar moment, because we don't know how many judges were appointed. We don't know how many laws were passed. We don't know how much damage was done, how many things were stolen from the American people that were at the hands of people who were never elected, they were selected. And once you get to that place where you can see it clearly, than the American people, who 82% want the SAVE Act passed, but nobody in Congress can do the will of the people. That should show you everything you need to know about the fact that we are captured by someone that cares very little about the American people. 6 years, I've matured quite a bit through this process. And what I want justice for once. For once in our life, I want the American people to win one. And by win one, I mean just get the ability to have their voice be heard, to undo the damage that's been done to our country and to our children. But God. All right. Well, you can share us at Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn. We're in the process of getting all the Roku stuff done. We'll have an app that'll be done here certainly sooner than later. We are also going to, I don't know, we have some other stuff that's going to be pretty cool. We're bringing in like a Bible app that'll let you interact with the Bible. It's going to be pretty cool. We'll see. Yeah, let's pray it out. And by the way, I'm not discouraged at all. If you're thinking I'm discouraged, I'm not. I'm not discouraged. I'm not. I was watching this incredible movie last night. It's totally not a, like, knock him down. I think it's called, here, let me look it up real quick. Let me look it up. I think this is an important stop for a second. We'll just look it up real quick. Oh, it's 5 o'clock. I got to go. Let's pray it out. Sorry. I'll tell you guys about the movie tomorrow. Anyway, it's a great movie about an octopus. If you know which one I'm talking about, it's a Netflix show, but it was on, what was it called? Hulu? Yeah. Anyway, I'll send it to you tomorrow. Father God, thank you for the time that we had together. Thank you for the ability to kind of walk through some of this information and just reason with people about where our elections are and recognize just the innate evil that we have that is consuming much of what we have as a country. We know we can see it. We know that our elections are fraudulent. We know that they are stealing the identities and the very soul of our nation through our children. We also know that the children coming up now are some of the most conservative, most focused that we've seen ever in the history of our nation in hundreds of years. We know that the truth is this radical thing that leads to ethics and morals and to restoration, bringing you back into our country and into the very way of life. But more importantly than our country is the world that is rotted by these same people that operate across our great world. Father, I just ask you to give us the strength to fight, to allow us to forgive each other, set aside petty differences so we can work the problem and win for the American people and win for the people around the world. I ask you to bless President Trump, Father, and give him the ability to have strength to move mountains, to part the sea if necessary, but to do whatever is necessary to get us to a place where we have free and fair elections and an ethical society. I thank you again, Father, for the things that you've put in my life and the blessings that I've been able to have. And I thank you for the many people around me that have protected me and walked with me and done great things with me. I say these things humbly in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, I'll see you guys later. Have a great day. And God bless you guys.
Rise up untamed in the heart of the fire where the wild ones roam. Joe Oltmann's calling, bringing truth back home. From conservative daily to this untamed fire, we shatter the silence, lifting spirits higher. No chains can hold us, no lies can prevail. Authentic and fearless on this rugged trail. Patriots gather under stars and stripes. Untamed nation. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Untamed nation, it's a battle song, motivating hearts where the brave belong. Yeah, untamed and wild, forever strong. Play it again all night long. Break the mold, chase the real, no more games, time to heal. Joe's voice leads the untamed crew. Truth matters through and through. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Tame nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave